Chapter 288. Chi Wan said, as a well-known pharmaceutical tycoon in M country, James has very tight security around him. If he dared to tell you his identity, he would be ready to be retaliated by you. It would be even more difficult to catch him as a hostage. Moreover, the assassination mission on your side hasn't been cancelled yet. As soon as you move, there will be assassins swarming over. These people are all madmen who value money more than their lives. They might even blow up the plane you're on. Qin Haodong pondered for a moment. What Qi Weiner said made sense. His cultivation had not reached the supreme power level. Under the watchful eyes of so many killers, it was almost impossible to cross the sea to assassinate a financial tycoon in M country. Moreover, the killers would not stop until the task of the deep web was cancelled. If he left, Lin Momo's safety would also be a problem. However, if he didn't catch James, he wouldn't be able to cancel the task of the deep web. He would be too busy to deal with the killers, let alone the production of the blood revival oral liquid. This was probably one of James's intentions. Qi Weiner seemed to read his mind. She said on the other side of the phone, "Are you confused? I have a way to help you solve your current predicament immediately." Qin Haodong's eyes lit up as he said, "What is it? Tell me." Qi Weiner said coquettishly, "The way is mine. You're no one to me. Why should I tell you?" Qin Haodong said hurriedly, "As long as you can help me solve the problem of the deep web, you can tell me anything. I'll definitely agree." "That's what you said." Qi Weiner said, "As long as you promise to be my boyfriend, I'll tell you the way." Qin Haodong hadn't expected this girl to make such a request. However, thinking of all the feelings Qi Weiner had for him, he couldn't bear to refuse. He hesitated and said, "Well, as long as you don't mind, I have no problem." "Great, you can't go back on your word." Qi Weiner cheered happily on the other side of the phone. Although they had a deep relationship, their relationship was not clear after all. Qin Haodong was moved. As the eldest daughter of the Qi family, as long as Qi Weiner wanted to, the men who pursued her could line up from the capital to the south of the Yangtze River. Even so, she could follow him wholeheartedly, regardless of fame and wealth. No man could refuse this kind of love. "As long as you don't regret it." He said, "Okay, tell me what the solution is. Otherwise, there will be more killers coming." Qi Weiner said, "It's actually very simple. You're the one who's involved. The deep web doesn't belong to James, and there's no rule that only he can use it." Qin Haodong thought of something and said, "Do you mean that I can also find a killer to assassinate James?" "That's right. You can also take out a sum of money and post a bounty on the dark web to assassinate James. When the time comes, he can't take it anymore and will naturally come to you to beg for mercy." Qin Haodong patted his thigh and said, "Yes, it's a good idea. Why didn't I think of it?" Although James was a world-famous financial tycoon, he believed that he would not have more masters around him than he did. As long as he put up the mission, he believed that it would not be long before he would bow down to him. When he hung up the phone, Lin Momo had just finished the meeting. Qin Haodong said, "How much money do we have now?" Lin Momo said, "Buying this pharmaceutical factory saved us 500 million yuan compared to the original plan. Now we can use the money at any time. But what do you want to do with such a large sum of money?" Qin Haodong told her about Qi Weiner's method and said, "James is a bastard. Let's let him taste the bitterness. Anyway, the money is only for temporary use. If we can't kill James, we'll return it." Lin Momo nodded. She also thought that this was the only available way at the moment. She said, "How much money do you need?" "Give me all 500 million. I want to make James's family lively." Qin Haodong had been full of anger after being assassinated one after another. Now he had to vent his anger. Lin Momo wrote down the account number and password without hesitation and gave them to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong logged into the deep web and registered an account. However, he found that the task of assassinating James could not be posted, indicating that his level was not high enough. What was going on? Qin Haodong called Saber over. Saber looked at it and said, "Boss, the deep web divides users into 5 levels, from 1 star to 5 stars. Only old users who have reached 3 stars or above can use the function of rewarding assassination. You're only a 1-star user now, so you can't use it." "Then what should we do?" Saber said, "It's easy. Use it for me. I've reached 4 stars. "Oh. That's great." Qin Haodong directly logged into Saber's account and posted the task of assassinating James. Saber was speechless when he saw the amount of money Qin Haodong typed. "Boss, you're too cruel to offer such a high commission. I guess the underground world will be boiling." Sure enough, shortly after Qin Haodong posted the task, there was a stir in the underground world. In the tropical rainforest of America, a 2-meter-tall black man was carefully wiping the sniper rifle in his hand. Suddenly, a Caucasian companion ran over with a laptop and shouted excitedly, "Boss, we're rich." "What's the matter? What a fuss?" The black man said with some dissatisfaction. "Boss, look, a reward of 500 million yuan. It's been a long time since the deep web offered such a big reward." The white man said as he handed the laptop to the black man. The black man glanced at it and his eyes suddenly lit up. He put away the sniper rifle in his hand and said, "Tell our brothers to act quickly. As long as this deal is done, we don't have to run out to be mercenaries anymore." In Phuket, Thailand, a thin yellow man was playing in the water with 2 beautiful women. Suddenly, the phone on the shore rang. After answering the phone, he didn't care about the 2 women with big breasts and buttocks. He immediately put on his clothes and left in a hurry. As the 25th killer in the underground world, he had originally come here for a vacation. However, after learning that someone had offered 500 million yuan to assassinate James, he immediately ended his vacation and rushed to M country. At the Wuxia Imperial Capital Airport, a plane from M country slowly landed. A white couple with blonde hair and blue eyes walked out of the airport. While waiting for the bus, the man habitually opened the laptop and glanced at it. Then, he took the woman's hand and hurried to the ticket office. "Tom, what are you going to do?" the woman asked in surprise. "Buy a ticket and fly back to M country as soon as possible," Tom said as he walked faster and faster. "Are you crazy? We've just arrived in Wuxia. We haven't finished that task yet," the woman said in confusion. The deep web just released a new task, offering 500 million yuan for James's head. "If you don't want to earn 500 million yuan, do you want to earn 5 million yuan? The woman said, "You're right. Let's go back right now. We must be fast. It may be too late." Half an hour later, the killer couple, who had just set foot on the land of Wuxia, returned to M country without even seeing Qin Haodong and Lin Momo. The 500 million yuan reward made the whole underground world boil. Mercenaries and killers from all over the world rushed to James's home like flies. At the Golden Branch and Jade Leaf Kindergarten, a man wearing a cap came to the gate of the kindergarten when it was almost time to get off work. He took out a magnetic card that represented his parents' identity and swiped it on the card machine at the gate. Then, he walked into the kindergarten. Wang Jiani had been living a good life since she got rid of Dong Chao's harassment. She looked much more beautiful than before. At this time, she was taking care of the children as usual while waiting for their parents. After the man in the cap entered the kindergarten, he went straight to Tang Tang's class and said to Wang Jiani, "Hello, Ms. Wang. I'm Qin Haodong's friend. He and Lin Momo are busy today, so he asked me to pick you up." Wang Jiani looked at the man in the cap and made sure that she had never seen him before. Then, she said, "But I haven't received a call from Tang Tang's father. According to the rules, I can't give Tang Tang to you." Hearing someone calling her name at the gate, the little fellow thought that her father had come to pick her up. She immediately ran out with her little school bag and asked, "Teacher, is Papa here?" After seeing the little fellow, the man said with a smile, "Tang Tang, I'm your father's good friend, Uncle Zhang. I'm here to pick you up from school on behalf of your father. Would you like to go with me?" The little fellow shook her head and said, "No, Papa said that I can't go with strangers." The man in the cap added, "But your father and mother are very busy today and have no time to pick you up. That's why they asked me to come. If you don't go with Uncle Zhang, your parents will miss you." After that, he took out a mobile phone from his pocket and found Qin Haodong's phone number. Then, he said to Wang Jiani, "Ms. Wang, Qin Haodong did ask me to come here. Why don't you call him to confirm it?" Wang Jiani thought for a moment. This situation was not impossible. Then, she took out her mobile phone and said, "Well, I'll call Qin Haodong now." Seeing that Wang Jiani did not use her mobile phone, the man in the cap had a fierce look on his face. When Wang Jiani had just dialed the number and put the mobile phone to her ear, he suddenly chopped her neck with a knife and knocked her out. Then, he picked up the little fellow and walked out of the door. "Bad guy, why did you hit Ms. Wang?" The little fellow struggled desperately in the arms of the man in the cap. Although she was much stronger than ordinary children, she could not fight against a strong man. "Help! Come and catch the bad guy." Seeing that she could not break free, the little fellow began to shout desperately. The man in the cap was very fast. Before the teachers of other classes could react, he had already run to the gate of the kindergarten. A security guard found something strange and came over to ask, "What's going on?" "The child doesn't like to go to the tutoring class, so she is not obedient." The man in the cap did not wait for the security guard to respond. He kicked the security guard in the stomach and rushed out of the door. At the gate of the kindergarten, a black car without a license plate had already stopped there. After the man in the cap took the little fellow into the car drove away and soon disappeared from everyone's sight. "Call the police! Call the police! Someone has taken the child away." The security guard quickly sounded the siren at the gate. At the same time, Wang Jiani also woke up. She immediately realized what had happened and quickly took out her mobile phone to call Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong and Lin Momo were driving to pick up the little fellow. When they were about to arrive at the kindergarten, the phone rang. He pressed the answer button and heard Wang Jiani shouting at the top of her voice, "Haodong, Tang Tang has been taken away." Chapter 289. What did you say? Qin Haodong slammed on the brakes and stopped the car on the side of the road. "Just now, someone pretended to be your friend, rushed into the kindergarten, knocked me out, and took Tang Tang away." Wang Jiani knew that time was precious, so she briefly explained the whole process of the little fellow being taken away. In addition to Tang Tang, were any other children taken away? After the initial shock, Qin Haodong quickly calmed down. Although he was also worried about his daughter, he knew that it was useless to panic now. Only by calming down could he save the little fellow. "No, they only took Tang Tang away, and then drove away." "Okay, I see." Qin Haodong hung up the phone, turned around and went straight to Daddy's security company. Lin Momo heard most of it and asked in panic, "Haodong, what's going on? Did something happen to Tang Tang? Someone just came to the kindergarten and took Tang Tang away." Qin Haodong grabbed Lin Momo's hand and said, "But don't worry, it must be those people from Wilson Company. Their purpose is the formula, and they won't do anything to my daughter." Seeing Qin Haodong being so calm, Lin Momo also relaxed a little. She said, "What should we do? Where are we going now? Should we go to the police station? We can't call the police. It's better for us to deal with it ourselves." Qin Haodong's power was no less than that of the police, so he did not choose to call the police. Once the police were called, the situation would be out of his control, and it might cause trouble. He said again, let's hurry to Daddy Security Company. The robbers will definitely call me for the formula later. It will be much easier to ask Chi Weiner to help us locate the position of the robbers. This time he did not choose to use the blood drawing skill, because the robber's purpose was clear, it was for the formula in his hand. Before getting the formula, the little fellow would not be in danger. If he rushed over rashly, it was likely to be counterproductive, so he had to stabilize the robbers first. He drove very fast and arrived at Daddy Security Company while talking. He rushed into Chi Weiner's room in a hurry. When he briefly explained the matter, the cell phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Coming. Qin Haodong made a gesture to Lin Momo and Chi Weiner, and Lin Momo quickly shut up. Chi Weiner turned on the computer, and her fingers were typing quickly. Hello, Dr. Qin, what are you busy with? Huang Weili's wicked laughter came from the other side of the phone. Huang Weili, did you kidnap my daughter? Where did you take her? What? Your daughter was kidnapped. Although Huang Weili asked this, he did not sound surprised at all. He said, I am a decent businessman. I will not do such illegal things. However, I have many friends. As long as you give me the formula, I will definitely help you find your daughter. At this time, Qin Haodong was sure that the little fellow must be in Huang Weili's hands. Tell me, what do you want? Haven't I already made it clear? As long as you give me the formula of the blood revival oral liquid, I will help you find your daughter. Qin Haodong said, let Tang Tang talk to me. I need to make sure she's safe. This is impossible. Huang Weili said, you will receive a photo of your daughter on your mobile phone later. Send me the formula of the blood revival oral liquid within 10 minutes. Then you can see your daughter. Then he hung up the phone directly. After a while, Qin Haodong received a message on his mobile phone. He opened it and saw a photo of the little fellow eating chicken wings. Seeing that their daughter was safe and sound, Qin Haodong and Lin Momo were relieved. It seemed that the purpose of the other party was really just the formula, and he had not reached the point of inhumanity. Qin Haodong turned to look at Chi Weiner and asked, have you found his location? Chi Weiner said, yes, he is in a basement of Wilson's company. Lin Momo scolded angrily, Huang Weili is a bastard. He would even kidnap a child for a formula. Qin Haodong said, the formula of the blood revival oral liquid is too important to Wilson's company. That's why they took the risk. Chi Weiner asked, what should we do now? Save her immediately. Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, we have to save Tang Tang, but Huang Weili only gave me 10 minutes. We have to give him a formula first to keep him calm. Chi Weiner said worriedly, but if you really give them the formula of the blood revival oral liquid, all your previous efforts will be in vain. Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company will immediately go bankrupt. Moreover, the little fellow is safe before you get the formula. Once you give the formula to Huang Weili, it's hard to say what he will do. Qin Haodong sneered and said, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Since Huang Weili wants to play, I'll play with him. The kindergarten was in a mess after Tang Tang was taken away. Other parents also panicked and they learned that a child had been taken away. They rushed to take their children home. After receiving the report, Nalan Wuxia rushed to the kindergarten with some people. As soon as she got out of the car, a young man with a black nose and a swollen face ran over and said angrily, police, 2 bastards knocked me out and robbed me of the school card I used to pick up my child. He was a parent of a child. As soon as he parked his car in the parking lot, he was knocked out with a stick and robbed of the school card in his hand. When he woke up, he was scared and thought that the target was his child. When he arrived at the kindergarten, he found that his son was intact, so he ran to the police. Nalan Wuxia asked the policeman behind her to record the parent's statement. Then she walked quickly into the kindergarten. The kindergarten director and Wang Jiani came to greet her. Police, a child was taken away by a gangster. You must help us save the child and send the gangster to prison. The kindergarten director was nervous and angry. He didn't expect such a thing to happen. It would have a great negative impact on the reputation of the kindergarten. Nalan Wuxia said, "Tell me what happened. What's the name of the child? Have the parents been notified?" Wang Jiani briefly told the story and then said, "The child is called Tang Tang. Her mother is the president of Lin's group and her father is Qin Haodong." "What? You mean Tang Tang was taken away?" Nalan Wuxia was shocked. She didn't expect that the little fellow would be taken away. She immediately interrupted Wang Jiani. Wang Jiani didn't expect that Nalan Wuxia would have such a big reaction. She said, "Yes, Tang Tang was taken away. The kidnappers must have planned it a long time ago. Their target is Tang Tang." Nalan Wuxia took out her mobile phone and quickly dialed Qin Haodong's number. "Tang Tang was taken away. Where are you?" Qin Haodong said, "I already know. The robber just called me." Nalan Wuxia said, "Who is it? Give me the phone number quickly. I'll ask the technicians to take technical measures." "There's no need for that. I can handle this myself. Just prepare your men and wait for my call to arrest them." Qin Haodong hung up the phone. In the Jiangnan branch of Wilson Company, Huang Weili was excited when he saw the formula sent by Qin Haodong. "Boy, you don't want to give it to me, do you? I don't believe you can beat me." After saying that, he rushed to the laboratory with the formula and said to Jiang Tao, "Dr. Jiang, stop all your work and prepare the liquid according to this formula." "Manager Huang, what are you doing?" "I'm busy here." Jiang Tao said unhappily. "Dr. Jiang, stop all your work. This is the most important thing." Anyway, Huang Weili was the person in charge of the Jiangnan branch. He had to respect him. Jiang Tao had no choice but to put down his work and take the formula. "You must be fast. Prepare the medicinal liquid as soon as possible." Huang Weili was so excited that he rubbed his hands. If he got the formula of the blood revival oral liquid, he would have endless money in his life. At that moment, his mobile phone rang. It was Qin Haodong. "Huang Weili, I've given you the formula. Where's my daughter?" "Don't worry. You're too cunning. I have to verify whether the formula is true or not before I can help you find your daughter. Don't worry. As long as the formula is correct, the child will be sent back to you safely." Huang Weili hung up the phone directly. Now that the little fellow was in his hands, he had the initiative. He didn't have to care about Qin Haodong's feelings at all. James was in a good mood after the call with Qin Haodong. In his opinion, the Celestial Empire boy couldn't stand the harassment of the killers and would bow to him. It was only a matter of time before he handed over the formula. In a good mood, he left home with his bodyguards to go on a date with his little lover, Alice. He hadn't expected that he would be attacked by a killer as soon as he took off his clothes and climbed into Alice's bed. If it hadn't been for the experienced captain of his bodyguards, David, who had responded in time, he would have been killed. Even so, his left arm was still pierced by a bullet, and Alice died on the spot. From the beginning to the end of the first assassination, it was only 10 minutes after Qin Haodong posted the task on the deep web. This was done by a killer lurking in M country. The reward of 500 million yuan was enough to make the whole underground world crazy. They had the geographical advantage, so they naturally had to act first. Moreover, the probability of success would be higher if they were the first to act. After all, James hadn't seen the reward at this time, so he wouldn't be too vigilant and the defense around him wouldn't be too strong. After escaping, James immediately felt that something was wrong. He hurried back to his villa under the escort of his bodyguards. On the way, he encountered 4 or 5 assassinations in succession. Back home, he sat on the spacious sofa in the living room. The family doctor bandaged the wound on his left arm. James was so angry that he shouted to the captain of the bodyguards next to him, "Have you found out? What the hell is going on? Why are there so many killers all of a sudden?" David took a laptop, opened the deep web page, and said to James, "Boss, look here." James took a look and was suddenly stunned. There was a blood-red assassination task at the top of the page. According to the rules of the deep web, the brighter the color of the words, the more the reward for completing the task. The task he had posted to assassinate Qin Haodong was below, and the color was only a light orange. He clicked on the task, and it was written that there was a reward of 500 million yuan for his head. No wonder he had encountered so many killers in succession. With 500 million yuan as the publicity, it would be strange if these killers didn't work hard. Bastard, who the F***ck did this? James roared angrily. After all, he was also a financial tycoon who had experienced great storms. After a short period of anger, he slowly calmed down. After thinking about the whole thing, he quickly realized that this assassination task must have something to do with Qin Haodong. Chapter 290. Bastard, that Wuxia guy is taking revenge on me. James grabbed the wine glass on the table and smashed it on the ground. Just as he lowered his head, he heard a sniper bullet hit the vase behind him. He was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He hurriedly lay on the ground and shouted, "David, quickly close the curtains and send more people. You must protect me." David and his men immediately showed the professionalism of senior bodyguards. First, they closed all the curtains in the villa, and then they arranged guards in all key positions. James got up from the ground. He had been lucky enough to escape, but from now on, he could no longer believe that God was always on his side. He didn't dare to sit on the sofa anymore. He pulled a blanket from the side and spread it on the ground, hiding his fat body behind the sofa. At that moment, an old butler with silver hair ran in and said, "Boss, Mr. Rogers is here to visit. Would you like to see him?" "No. Tell them that I won't see anyone today." James roared angrily. Who knew if Rogers would bring a killer with him? He was now completely scared out of his wits. In the Wuxia branch of Wilson Company, Huang Weili excitedly held a small glass bottle in his hand. It was filled with black Chinese medicine liquid. "Dr. Jiang, are you sure that this liquid has the same composition as the blood revival oral liquid you tested last time?" "The data from the laboratory is exactly the same." Jiang Tao said discontentedly, "Manager Huang, I really don't know why you want me to spend so much time developing this useless thing. I hope you won't bother me with such boring things in the future." "Well, it's all right. You can go back to work." Huang Weili took the small glass bottle and returned to his office excitedly. It seemed that the formula Qin Haodong had given him must be real. Otherwise, the composition of the test couldn't be exactly the same. "Yellow hair, come here." He called a gangster from outside. "Boss, what's the matter?" The gangster asked respectfully. "Have you called your cousin who has leukemia?" "Yes, he's waiting outside." "Hurry up and call him in. I have the latest blood revival oral liquid here. He can take it for free." After suffering so many losses from Qin Haodong, Huang Weili was more careful this time. Whether this kind of medicinal liquid worked or not, he had to let people try it to know. Only when it could completely cure leukemia patients could it be the real blood revival oral liquid. "I'll call him in." The yellow-haired gangster brought in a tall young man from outside. "Boss, this is my cousin, Gao Duqiang." "Cousin, this is my cousin, Boss Huang." As his name suggested, Gao Duqiang was more than 1.9 meters tall and had a strong body. He used to be a fitness coach, but he had suddenly contracted leukemia some time. He looked sick and listless. "Hello, Boss Huang. Do you really have the blood revival oral liquid?" After hearing that the blood revival oral liquid could cure leukemia completely, Gao Duqiang had been looking for it everywhere, but he hadn't been able to find it. That day, when he heard from his cousin that Huang Weili had the blood revival oral liquid, he immediately rushed over. "Thank you, Boss Huang. How much is it?" Gao Duqiang asked excitedly. "Great. Thank you, Boss Huang. How much is it?" Gao Duqiang said excitedly. Huang Weili said generously, "It doesn't matter. You're Yellowhair's cousin. I'll give it to you, but I have a request. You must take it now." "Thank you, Boss Huang. Thank you so much." Gao Duqiang took the small glass bottle excitedly and was about to take it. Huang Weili suddenly thought of something and said, "Wait a minute. You can drink it when I tell you to." Gao Duqiang was slightly stunned, but he still said, "Okay, Boss Huang. I'll listen to you." Huang Weili came back to his senses and made a video call to Davis. Davis was curled up behind the sofa. Although it had only been half a day, he was almost crazy because of the killers. He had been poisoned when he was eating, shot when he went out, and even the toilet in the toilet had been blown up. Damn it, when will these days end? Just as he was feeling annoyed, the phone next to him rang. He took the phone, pressed the answer button, and growled, "Huang Weili, why are you calling me? If you don't have a reasonable explanation, go eat sh*t right now." Huang Weili was shocked when he saw Davis's ferocious face on the big screen. He quickly said flatteringly, "Boss, don't be angry. I have great news for you." "What is it?" "You're dead if you can't satisfy me." Huang Weili said, "Here's the thing, boss. I got the formula of the blood revival oral liquid and successfully prepared it." "What? How is that possible? Are you sure you're not lying to me?" Davis calmed down a lot, but he still didn't believe it. He had completely tasted Qin Haodong's power. He didn't believe that Huang Weili could easily get the formula of the blood revival oral liquid. "Of course it's true, boss. The man behind me is a leukemia patient. He's about to take the blood revival oral liquid. I want you to see the effect of this magic medicine with your own eyes." The purpose of Huang Weili's call was to let James see the effect of Gao Duqiang taking the medicine. As long as he got the boss's approval, he would be able to make a meteoric rise. He would emigrate to M country and Qin Haodong wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Davis said, "Well, I'll trust you one more time. If I don't see the satisfactory effect, you'll die. Don't worry, boss. The laboratory has already got the data. It's exactly the same as the blood revival oral liquid last time." Huang Weili came to his senses and drove the yellow-haired gangster out of the room. Then, he turned around and locked the door. Only he and Gao Duqiang were left in the room. "Okay, you can take it now," Huang Weili said to Gao Duqiang. Only then did Gao Duqiang understand that he was just a test subject for the medicine. However, after thinking that it was free, he still drank the liquid in the glass bottle in one gulp. Seeing him drink the medicine, Huang Weili asked with concern, "How is it? Do you feel that it's working?" Gao Duqiang said, "It seems to be working. I'm so hot now." "That's a good thing. It means that the blood revival oral liquid is working." Huang Weili turned around and said to Davis excitedly, "Boss, did you see that? The formula I got is real. The liquid is really effective." At that moment, he looked at Gao Duqiang like a commentator and said, "Boss, look at his face. It's rosy. He's not as pale as before. He's also much more energetic. And his eyes are red. Look, how fast he's breathing." Speaking of this, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. At that moment, Gao Duqiang didn't look like a leukemia patient. Instead, he looked like a beast in heat. He looked at him with a strange light in his eyes. "What? What are you doing? Stop. Don't come over." Huang Weili was completely scared and hurriedly stepped back. On the other side of the video call, James shouted, "You idiot. What the hell did you give him? It's not the blood revival oral liquid. It's obviously a strong aphrodisiac. At that moment, Gao Daqiang's eyes were bloodshot. He stared at Huang Weili and growled. Then, he rushed over. No, don't come over. Huang Weili was completely frightened. He turned around and wanted to run out of the room. However, Gao Daqiang didn't give him a chance. He stretched out his big hand and grabbed Huang Weili's neck. Then, he pressed Huang Weili down on the sofa like a hungry tiger. He wanted to resist, but he was used to living a comfortable life. How could he be a match for Gao Daqiang, who was a fitness coach? He was pressed down and his clothes were soon torn to pieces. The room was filled with Huang Weili's miserable cries. However, he often did bad things here, so the room was decorated with excellent soundproofing. Although the cries inside were earth-shattering, they sounded very faint outside. In addition, the door was tightly locked, so others couldn't get in even if they wanted to. Then, the scene was a broken chrysanthemum, a floor full of wounds, and yellow underwear. 2 lines of tears ran down Huang Weili's face. What had he done? He didn't get the secret formula of the blood revival oral liquid, and he had lost his chrysanthemum that he had collected for 30 or 40 years. On the other side of the video call, James was completely shocked. Although the social atmosphere of M country was very open and he had had countless lovers, he had never seen a live broadcast between 2 men. It was a pity that he couldn't help Huang Weili even if he wanted to. He could only watch the reality show. In a corner not far from Wilson's Jiangnan branch, several commercial cars were parked there. In the first car, Qin Haodong, Lin Momo, and Qi Wan were sitting together. Looking at the unbearable picture on the laptop, Qi Wan couldn't help but stare at Qin Haodong. It's all your fault. You made such a rotten thing. Qin Haodong said, this guy kidnapped my daughter and blackmailed me for the formula. He deserved it. Lin Momo said, Haodong, what is the formula you gave this guy? Can't you see what it is? Qin Haodong smiled and then said, let's go. It's almost time to pick up the little fellow and take her home. After that, he took the lead to get out of the car, followed by Saber and the divine mercenaries. They rushed into the gate of Wilson's company together. Several punks guarding the gate saw Qin Haodong coming and rushed to stop them, but they were punched and kicked to the ground by Saber and the others. Entering the building, Qin Haodong had already felt the position of the little fellow, so he took them directly to the basement. It was close to midnight, and the 2 punks guarding the door were sitting in the chairs drowsily. Before they woke up, they were knocked to the ground by Saber. Qin Haodong opened the door and saw the little fellow sitting on the sofa inside, eating the chips in her hand and watching cartoons across from her. From time to time, she grabbed the coke next to her and took a few sips. This was not like a kidnapping at all. It was more like a vacation. Tang Tang, mommy is here to pick you up. Finally seeing her daughter, Lin Momo rushed over and held the little fellow in her arms. The little fellow kissed Lin Momo on the cheek, turned her head and said to Qin Haodong, Papa, why are you so late? I'm sleepy. Qin Haodong patted her little head and said, if I knew you were so happy, I wouldn't have come to pick you up. Don't you know you're being kidnapped? Why aren't you afraid at all? The little fellow blinked her big eyes and said, I know I'm being kidnapped, but I know Papa will definitely come to save me. You're a devil. Qin Haodong pinched the little fellow's chubby face and said to Lin Momo, you take Tang Tang back first, I'll go up to settle the score with Huang Weili. Chapter 291. Huang Weili lay on the sofa as he felt waves of pain coming from his chrysanthemum. He cried like a man in tears. Fortunately, Gao Daqiang's drug had slowly disappeared. He stood there in a daze, as if he didn't understand what had happened. On the big screen, James roared, Huang Weili, is this the good news you gave me? Boss, at that moment, Huang Weili really wanted to die. If he had lived long enough, he would have found a piece of tofu and killed himself. Gao Duqiang came to his senses, pulled him up from the sofa, and slapped him hard in the face. Bastard, what did you give me? Even if I die today, I'll drag you down with me. No wonder he was angry. He had come for the blood revival oral liquid, but he hadn't expected to be drugged. Although he had broken Huang Weili's butt, he had no interest in this kind of thing. At this moment, the door was kicked open from the outside with a loud bang. Qin Haodong walked in from the outside. How about it, Mr. Huang? Are you satisfied with the gift I gave you? Qin Haodong said as he glanced at James on the big screen. He waved to him and said, Mr. James, nice to meet you. Have you had a good time these days? Is it boring to stay at home? Do you want me to give you a portion of this potion? James's face was very gloomy. He and Huang Weili both wanted to get Qin Haodong's formula, but they hadn't expected to be defeated by this young man. Who are you? Gao Duqiang asked. Qin Haodong glanced at him. He had only wanted to use this prescription to delay the time and punish Huang Weili. He hadn't expected to hurt Gao Duqiang. He took out a bottle of blood revival oral liquid from his pocket, gave it to Gao Duqiang, and said, My name is Qin Haodong. I developed the blood revival oral liquid. Take it and take it. Don't take other people's medicine in the future. You are Dr. Qin. Thank you. Thank you so much. Although Gao Duqiang had just been cheated, now that he had gotten the real blood revival oral liquid, his life was guaranteed. After thanking him profusely, he left Wilson's company with the medicine. Qin Haodong turned his head and looked at Huang Weili again. Manager Huang used to be high and mighty, but now his hair was in a mess, his body was covered with bruises, and his clothes were torn into pieces. Coupled with the look of someone who had been raped, he looked miserable. He smiled and said, Boss Huang, you're really professional. You actually tested the medicine yourself. What do you think? My formula is not bad, right? If you package it properly in the future, it will definitely be better than the Indian divine oil. Huang Weili roared crazily, Bastard, Qin Haodong, how dare you trick me? Don't forget that your daughter is still in my hands. Believe it or not, I'll kill her now. It would have been better if Huang Weili hadn't mentioned the little girl. Qin Haodong raised his leg and kicked Huang Weili in the stomach. Huang Weili flew more than 10 meters in the air like a ball and hit the electronic screen heavily. James, who was sitting opposite him, was shocked. Huang Weili fell to the ground for a long time before he got up. At that time, he realized his situation and closed his mouth, not daring to say anything. Qin Haodong said to Sword behind him, Wash him and find some clothes to change into. After that, he turned his head to look at James and put on a playful expression. Mr. James, where are you? If I'm not mistaken, you should be behind the sofa. Why don't you sit on the sofa? Why do you have to lie down behind it? Do all rich people have such a bad taste? Bastard, you are a devil. James roared angrily. Qin Haodong didn't care. He smiled and said, Mr. James, you'd better save your strength. Otherwise, you won't have the strength to deal with the killer later. You. Although James was very angry, he was a world-famous financial tycoon after all. He could control his emotions at the critical moment. He took a deep breath and said, Mr. Qin, I think we can have a good talk. Qin Haodong said, Okay, I'm always easy to talk to. What do you want to talk about? James said, How about we each take a step back and cancel the assassination mission on the deep web? And we promise not to do any more killer attacks in the future. Not good. Qin Haodong's face changed and he said in a cold voice, You can do the assassination as you want and cancel it as you want. It's not that easy. James thought that Qin Haodong would agree, but he didn't expect to be refused. He said angrily, Then what do you want? Believe it or not, I'll immediately increase the bounty to 1 billion yuan. When I die, you won't be able to live either. Qin Haodong said with disdain, "You think too much. I won't die even if you die 100 times. In other words, even if we both die, you're a world-famous financial tycoon and I'm just a small doctor. I'll exchange my life for yours. It's not a loss." Seeing that Qin Haodong didn't give in, James finally softened. He sighed and said, "Tell me your conditions. What do you want to cancel the mission on the deep web? Do you really want to talk to me?" Qin Haodong asked. "Of course. In fact, I don't want to kill you. I'm just a businessman who pursues interests. I just want to put some pressure on you and make you sell the formula to me. Since you don't want to, forget it. We don't need to be enemies." Qin Haodong said, "Since you want to talk, show some sincerity first." James glanced at Qin Haodong and said, "Okay, I'll cancel the mission now." Then he took the laptop and cancelled the assassination mission in front of Qin Haodong. "Well, Mr. Qin, are you satisfied with my attitude?" Qin Haodong said, "Although the mission is cancelled, these assassins have caused a lot of losses to me and scared my girlfriend. You have to do something." "Well, 50 million yuan. It's to help my girlfriend get over the shock." "What? 50 million yuan? You're too greedy." What else did James want to say? Qin Haodong said, 60 million, no, you can't do this. Do you know how much 60 million is? Qin Haodong said coldly, 70 million. If you say one more word, I'll add another 10 million. James opened his mouth wide and quickly raised his hand to cover it, for fear that he would say another word. You devil, give me your account number. I'll transfer it to you now. James was completely scared now. If he continued to be targeted by the assassins, not only would his company go bankrupt, but he might also lose his life. In front of money, life was more important. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "That's right. That's the attitude to talk." Then he gave his account number to James. Soon his phone rang and 70 million yuan was transferred to his account. Good. Happy cooperation. Qin Haodong smiled at James. Then he called Saber and asked him to cancel the mission. Seeing the red mission on the deep web disappear, James breathed a sigh of relief. He glared at Qin Haodong and then hung up the phone. Qin Haodong knew that James would definitely not let it go, but he would deal with whatever came. As long as this foreigner wanted to play, he would play with him to the end. At this time, Sword came back with Huang Weili. Although General Manager Huang was not as radiant after being ravaged, he looked much better than before. Qin Haodong, what do you want? Huang Weili shouted. He didn't know how Qin Haodong was going to treat him, so he was very scared. Don't be nervous. I just want to take a picture of you. Qin Haodong took out a camera from his arms and pointed the lens at Huang Weili. Originally, he wanted Huang Weili to sit down, but Huang Weili couldn't sit at all. He could only stand. Huang Weili still didn't know what Qin Haodong wanted to do. He asked nervously, "Why are you recording me? What are you going to do?" Qin Haodong asked, "Tell me, what illegal things has Wilson Company done in Jiangnan over the years? Did you evade taxes? Did you hurt protesting leukemia patients?" He directly used the mind-bewitching skill when he asked the question. A trace of confusion flashed in Huang Weili's eyes. He began to talk to the camera about how Wilson Company had falsified accounts, evaded taxes, kept gangsters to beat protesting leukemia patients, and kidnapped Qin Haodong's daughter in order to get the formula of the blood revival oral liquid of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. That's right. Qin Haodong put away the camera and asked Sword to send the content to Qi Wan through the internet. She immediately posted it on the internet. As soon as he finished, Naylan Wuxia arrived with the police. Qin Haodong gave the memory card of the camera and Huang Weili to her. The crime that Huang Weili had just confessed was enough for him to stay in prison for 10 or 20 years. When Qin Haodong returned to the Lin's villa, the little fellow had fallen asleep. However, Lin Momo was still awake, waiting for Qin Haodong. Haodong, you're back. Lin Momo immediately came up to him and kissed him on the cheek. Thank you for saving Tang Tang today. Don't say that again. I told you that Tang Tang is my daughter. Qin Haodong said, but Tang Tang did a good job today. She was not scared at all when she was kidnapped. She deserves to be my daughter. You scared me to death today. Lin Momo patted her towering chest and asked, how's it going? Qin Haodong told her what had happened later and then said, now it's all right. Even if that foreigner Davis covets our formula, he won't dare to do things like assassins anymore. Lin Momo breathed a sigh of relief when she knew that the crisis of the assassins had been resolved. However, she soon frowned and said, Haodong, we're going to start production soon. The confidentiality of the formula is a problem. It's not only Wilson Company. I believe that other companies will send people to get our formula after the news spreads. After all, it's a golden goose that lays eggs. Everyone wants to own it. Qin Haodong thought about it and found that it was indeed a problem. Now that the formula was in his hands alone, there was no problem in terms of security. However, he had to tell the technical staff when it came to production. Otherwise, how could it be produced? However, it was not a difficult problem to solve. After a while, he had an idea and said, it's easy to solve. I'll change the formula slightly and turn the oral liquid into pills. Then, I'll divide it into 3 parts. When the time comes, our factory will be divided into 3 shifts. Each shift can only get 1/3 of the formula and produce one kind of pill. The 3 kinds of pills can only be taken together to achieve the healing effect. In this way, the formula can be prevented from being leaked to the greatest extent. Lin Momo said excitedly, this is indeed a good idea. Even if someone gets a formula, it's useless. Haodong, you're so smart. People say that people with developed limbs have simple minds. You're both developed limbs and brain. Qin Haodong held her in his arms and said with a low smile, you forgot that I have a more developed body. Chapter 292. The next day, 2 major events happened in the pharmaceutical industry in Jiangnan. Huan Weili, the head of the Jiangnan branch of Wilson Company, caused an uproar after the video of his confession was posted on the internet. The tax department intervened in the investigation and the Jiangnan branch of Wilson Company was completely closed. Huan Weili was imprisoned for kidnapping, tax evasion, and other crimes. This video also served as a free advertisement for Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, letting everyone know that a traditional Chinese medicine that could cure leukemia was about to come out. On that day, Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company officially started production. According to Qin Haodong's plan, the blood revival oral liquid was upgraded to the blood nourishing pill. Although the name and form had changed, the function was the same, which was to cure leukemia completely. Everything was on track. Qin Haodong became a technician and guided the workers on the production line. A busy day passed. After work, he had just finished dinner and wanted to play with the little fellow for a while. Suddenly, he received a call from Bai Zipping. Dr. Qin, where are you? Bai Zipping said in a hurry. I'm at home. What's the matter? Qin Haodong had a good impression of Bai Zipping. The boss of the dogfighting ring was very good. If it weren't for him, Qin Haodong wouldn't have gotten Dabai and Erbai. Dr. Qin, Dabai and Erbai are injured. Can you come and treat them? Dabai and Erbai are injured. How did they get injured? Qin Haodong was slightly surprised. Dabai and Erbai were huge and fierce purebred snow mastiffs. How could they be injured at the same time? Bai Zipping said in a hurry, something happened in my dogfighting ring. Whitey and Whitey were bitten by other dogs, and their injuries are very serious. Dr. Qin, please come quickly. If you are late, they may die. Okay, I'll be right there. Qin Haodong hung up the phone. Considering that the scene would be bloody after Dabai and Erbai were injured, he didn't take the little fellow and drove straight to the dogfighting ring. He went directly to Dabai and Erbai's kennel with ease. When he arrived, he saw Bai Zipping and several veterinarians waiting there. "Dr. Qin, you're finally here. Hurry up and treat them." Bai Zipping sounded anxious. The veterinarians had just sentenced Dabai and Erbai to death. Now, Qin Haodong was their last hope. "Don't worry. They won't die with me here." Qin Haodong opened the door of the kennel and walked straight in. He was shocked when he saw Dabai and Erbai. Because of their injuries were too serious. Dabai's entire body was drenched in blood, and there were dozens of wounds of varying sizes. His entire body had already been dyed a dark red color, and he lay listlessly on the ground, breathing weakly. Erbai's injuries were even more severe. There was a 10-centimeter gash on its neck that almost reached its windpipe. The two snow mastiffs were seriously. It seemed to be. If Qin was late, they would have been killed. Day medicine, and acupuncture. They be. If, they, snow, and, snow, would, could, mountains, county, mountain, and taking medicine, applying medicine, acupuncture, and a series of methods were used. Dumao and Ermao slowly recovered their vitality. 20 minutes later, the wounds on the surface of their bodies had begun to scab, and they slowly stood up from the ground. The veterinarians were not optimistic about Qin Haodong at first. They thought the young doctor was here to make trouble. They were even more disdainful when they saw him use traditional Chinese medicine on dogs. Veterinarians and traditional Chinese medicine were two different professions. How could the methods of treating people be effective on dogs? But what happened next surprised them. Dumao and Erbai, who had been dying, not only survived, but also slowly regained their ability to move, which was beyond their imagination. The way they looked at Qin Haodong suddenly changed. No wonder Bai Zipping valued this young man so much. It turned out that he was really capable. Seeing that his two dogs were saved, Bai Zipping breathed a sigh of relief. He asked the trainers of the dogfighting ring to take care of Dabai and Erbai. He respectfully invited Qin Haodong into the boss office. Bai Zipping made a cup of tea and brought it to Qin Haodong. He said, "Thanks to you, Dabai and Erbai would have been dead." Qin Haodong took a sip of tea and said, "Mr. Bai, what happened? Why did you use Dabai and Erbai for dog fighting?" Bai Zipping sighed and said, "I didn't want to, but I had no other choice." As he spoke, he recounted the events that had transpired. Today, someone had brought more than a dozen dogs to challenge his dogfighting ring. This kind of thing had happened often before, so Bai Zipping didn't pay much attention to it at first. Unexpectedly, this time was different from the past. The dogs brought by the man were too fierce. Although the dogs in the dogfighting ring were also battle-hardened dogs, they lost 9 out of 10 battles. In the end, the fighting dogs raised by the higher-ups were either dead or injured, and there were no dogs to use. Bai Zipping had no choice but to bring out Dabai and Erbai. He didn't expect that even with their fierceness, they would be defeated in the end and suffer such serious injuries. After that, Bai Zipping sighed again and said, "Brother Qin, I've suffered a great loss this time. The dogfighting ring's main source of income is to set up gambling games and let guests place bets. Today, I've lost so many games in a row. I've lost more than 100 million yuan in gambling money alone. Coupled with the injured and dead fighting dogs, the total loss is incalculable." Qin Haodong took another sip of tea and said lightly, "Mr. Bai, in fact, you were tricked." "Tricked? What do you mean?" A cold light flashed in Bai Zipping's eyes. The dogfighting ring was also one of the underground industries. Naturally, he was not a good man. Besides, he had a close relationship with Long Haisheng, the underground emperor of Jiangnan. He never thought that someone would dare to come to his dogfighting ring to trick him. Qin Haodong said, when I treated Dabai and Erbai just now, I found that they were both poisoned. Poisoned? That's impossible. Bai Zipping said, although some people with ulterior motives will use some despicable means during dogfighting, such as smearing some poison on the dog's hair, my dogfighting ring is very strict. Every dog must have its blood tested before participating in dogfighting, and the dog's hair must also be carefully examined. It is impossible for anyone to poison it. He was very confident in this regard. Because of his strict management and good reputation, his dogfighting ring had been growing in recent years. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was making money every day. Because of this, he didn't think too much after today's unprecedented fiasco. Qin Haodong said, the poison found in Dabai and Erbai's bodies is very special. I've never seen it before, but one thing is for sure. It's a poison with paralyzing properties. When your dogs are poisoned by this poison, their reaction speed, endurance, and strength will be weakened to varying degrees. This is an important reason why Dabai and Erbai were both defeated. Otherwise, with the ferocity of the Tibetan Mastiffs, they wouldn't have been defeated so miserably. If someone else had said this, Bai Zipping might have doubted it, but he had no doubt about Qin Haodong's medical skills. He said, how could this be? We've all been strictly inspected before the competition. Is there a mole here? Qin Haodong said, it's not a mole. It's just that your technical means are relatively backward, so you didn't detect this poison. As I said just now, this is the latest type of poison. I've never seen it before. It shouldn't be a natural poison, but a synthetic one. This kind of poison really made him feel very special. If it weren't for the perception of his powerful spirit, he really wouldn't have found it. Bai Zipping said angrily, bastard, how dare he poison the dogs? I'm going to get even with him. Qin Haodong said, this poison is really special. Only I can see it. Even the medical means of Jiangnan City can't find it. How can you say that he poisoned the dogs without evidence? That's why he's so fearless. This, Bai Zipping was speechless for a moment. Although he had some power, the strength of the other party was not weak. Moreover, he relied on his credibility to open the dogfighting ring. If he lost and said that the other party poisoned the dogs, who would dare to come to him in the future? He was afraid that the dogfighting ring would be closed in a few days. At this moment, the door opened and a young man came in from outside, followed by 4 or 5 bodyguards. Mr. Bai, I don't mean to criticize you, but the dogs here are really bad. I haven't had enough fun yet, but you don't even have a dog that can be pulled out. The young man laughed arrogantly. Halfway through, he suddenly stopped, because he saw Qin Haodong sitting next to him. Qin Haodong also recognized this arrogant young man. It was Zhang Daji, the young master of the Zhang family, who had been beaten by him several times. At the same time, he also realized that this guy was the one who had poisoned the dogs. Why are you here? Zhang Daji said, gnashing his teeth. He hated Qin Haodong to the bone, but he didn't dare to cause trouble because of the power of the Nalan family. He didn't expect to meet Qin Haodong here today. Qin Haodong smiled and said, Mr. Bai is my friend. Why can't I come? Knowing that Zhang Daji had poisoned his dogs, Bai Zipping naturally didn't have a good attitude. He said coldly, Zhang Daji, what are you doing here? Zhang Daji looked away from Qin Haodong and said, Mr. Bai, to tell you the truth, I like your dogfighting ring. How about selling it to me for 500 million yuan? Bai Zipping's face immediately became gloomy. He now understood that Zhang Daji's purpose was not only to earn some gambling money, but also to take a fancy to his dogfighting ring. He said coldly, are you kidding me, Zhang Daji? I don't want to sell my dogfighting ring. Even if I wanted to sell it, it would be worth at least 1 billion yuan. How could I sell it to you for 500 million yuan? Zhang Daji smiled and said, you're right. The dogfighting ring could have been worth 1 billion yuan in the past, but now it's different. Your dogs are so bad that they all lost to my dogs. The dogs in the dogfighting ring are so bad that they can't be sold at a high price. So it's good enough for me to give you 500 million yuan. If we wait until tomorrow, I can only give you 300 million yuan. Zhang Daji, get out of here. Bai Zipping said with a livid face, the dogfighting ring is my business. It has nothing to do with you. Zhang Daji said with a smile, Mr. Bai, you need to be calm when doing business. You're wrong. From now on, I'll bring dogs to you every day. If you have a dog, I'll kill it. I'll see how long you can last. By then, you won't even have a dog to fight in this huge dogfighting ring. I'll see if you still have the face to open it. Then he looked at Qin Haodong and said, Toy boy, I don't know what you're doing here. If you have a dog, you're welcome to take it out. My dog will kill you. Then he left with a wild laugh. Chapter 293. Bai Zipping's face was frighteningly gloomy. Zhang Daji was right. He didn't even have a decent dog in the dogfighting ring. If things went on like this, he would really have to close down. However, there was nothing he could do now. Because of the poison, his dogfighting ring had been completely suppressed by Zhang Daji. He sighed, took out a bank card, and said to Qin Haodong, Dr. Qin, there is 1 million yuan in this card. It's the medical fee for Dubai and Erbai today. Thank you. Qin Haodong turned the bank card between his fingertips a few times, then casually put it in his pocket and said, Mr. Bai, what are you going to do? Bai Zipping sighed and said, what else can I do? As that bastard Zhang Daji said, how can I run a dogfighting ring without dogs? I'll close it for a while and see how it goes. Qin Haodong glanced at him. This guy was a good guy. He didn't forget to pay the medical fee even though he was about to close it. Besides, he was a friend of Lin Ziyuan, his father-in-law. Qin Haodong couldn't let Lin Ziyuan be bullied by Zhang Daji. Mr. Bai, your dogfighting ring is so large and has been running for so many years. How can you close it just like that? Besides, Zhang Daji poisoned the dogs. We can't lose to such a dirty trick. Bai Zipping said, but so what? You said that the poison can't be detected yet, and we have no evidence. Don't worry. Leave it to me. Although I can't find any evidence, I can definitely make an antidote. Let's go see your injured dogs first. Dr. Qin, are you really going to help me cure all my dogs? Bai Zipping asked, overjoyed. In his opinion, Qin Haodong was a famous medical sage in Jiangnan City. It was already very good of him to be able to cure Dubai and Erbai. He had been too embarrassed to ask Qin Haodong to treat other injured dogs, but he didn't expect Qin Haodong to take the initiative. Qin Haodong said casually, lead the way. It's just a little injury. It's no big deal. Bai Zipping hurriedly took Qin Haodong to the kennel. In the past, when people came here, all kinds of fierce dogs would bark. But today, it was quiet, and there was a faint smell of blood in the air. Qin Haodong walked around. There were many kinds of fierce dogs in Bai Zipping's place, such as Tosa, Dugo, Caucasian, Rottweiler, and Bull Terrier. However, these fierce dogs were now seriously injured and lying on the ground, struggling to survive. Dr. Qin, thank you. Bai Zipping said. Qin Haodong didn't say anything. He walked straight to a huge Caucasian. This guy's long hair was covered with blood. One of its front legs and one of its hind legs had been bitten off. There were more than a dozen wounds on its body. Dr. Qin, is there any hope? Bai Zipping asked worriedly. Although this Caucasian dog was not as valuable as Dubai and Erbai, it was worth at least a few million yuan. If not for Qin Haodong, he would have already sentenced this dog to death. Don't worry. I'm here. As long as he's still breathing, he'll be fine. After saying that, Qin Haodong began to set the Caucasian's bones, apply medicine, and dredge the injured meridians. 10 minutes later, the dog's wounds were basically treated. The Caucasian's fierce blood-red eyes looked at Qin Haodong with gratitude. Qin Haodong patted its big head and turned to another Rottweiler. After that, Qin Haodong began to try to make an antidote that could restrain the unknown poison while treating these injured dogs. Fortunately, he had stored a lot of medicinal materials in his storage ring, so he could use them at will. The fact that Zhang Daji was able to smear this poison on his dog's hair showed that his dog had taken the antidote, which proved that this poison could be cured. However, Zhang Daji must have used Western medicine, while Qin Haodong wanted to make an antidote using traditional Chinese medicine. With his superb medical skills and strong perception of the spirit, he kept making different kinds of antidotes. After curing the fifth injured pit bull, he finally succeeded in making an antidote that could restrain this poison. With the antidote, Qin Haodong's treatment speed was much faster. Near midnight, more than 20 injured dogs in the dog-fighting ring had all been treated by Qin Haodong, except for 2 who had died because of their serious injuries. Well, let these dogs have a good rest and make them some nutritious food. They can fight again tomorrow night. Qin Haodong took out a bag of powder he had made and handed it to Bai Zipping. Before tomorrow's game, divide this medicine into 30 portions and give it to these dogs. Then they won't be afraid of the opponent's poison. Thank you, Dr. Qin. Thank you so much. Bai Zipping took Qin Haodong's hand and shed tears of gratitude. Not only had Qin Haodong saved his dogs, but he had also saved his dogfighting ring. Then he took out a bank card and put it in Qin Haodong's hand. Qin Haodong waved his hand and said, "Forget it. The treatment fee is enough. You'd better get ready and get all the money you lost tomorrow." Bai Zipping said, "Dr. Qin, can you come with us tomorrow night? I always feel a little uneasy without you around." Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, "Well, I'll come tomorrow night and bring Damao and Ermao with me, so that they can reunite with Dabai and Erbai." After work the next day, Qin Haodong went directly to the dog-fighting ring with Damao and Ermao. Considering that the dog-fighting scene was too bloody, he did not bring the little fellow. Unexpectedly, he received a call from Qin Weiner shortly after he left home. After hearing that he was going to the dog-fighting ring, Qin Weiner immediately became interested and insisted on going with him. Qin Haodong had no choice but to pick her up. They took Damao and Ermao to Bai Zipping's dogfighting ring. Knowing that Qin Haodong was coming, Bai Zipping had been waiting at the door early. He was not too surprised to see Qin Weiner. After all, it was normal for an excellent man like Qin Haodong to have a few beautiful women around him. However, when he saw Damao and Ermao jump out of the car, he was shocked. He took Qin Haodong's arm and asked in surprise, "Dr. Qin, are these the 2 little snow mastiffs you took away?" At this time, Damao and Ermao were like little lions, with smooth fur all over their bodies. Moist, beautiful and imposing, the 2 little guys were extremely arrogant. They just glanced at Bai Zipping and then went behind Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong patted Damao and Ermao's head and said, "Yes, these are the 2 little guys. How is it? I raised them well, didn't I?" Bai Zipping was surprised for a long time before he closed his mouth. Damao and Ermao were born for more than a month. He could not imagine how they grew so big. "Dr. Qin, how did you raise these dogs? Did you give them elixirs or dragon meat?" Although he asked casually, he found the right answer. Qin Haodong gave Damao and Ermao the physique-improving pill, the spirit-culturing pill, and the marrow-cleansing pill. Their growth speed was naturally not comparable to that of ordinary dogs. Qin Haodong smiled slightly and did not answer this question. He said, let's take Damao and Ermao to see their parents." Soon, they came to the kennel of Dabai and Erbai. After Qin Haodong's treatment, Dabai and Erbai had completely recovered. Qin Haodong opened the door of the kennel and directly put Damao and Ermao in. The 4 purebred snow mastiffs stood together. Dumao and Ermao looked even stronger than the adult Dabai and Erbai. Bai Zipping sighed and said, "Dr. Qin, I really admire you. I really don't know how you raised these dogs." When the 4 dogs came out together, Dabai and Erbai didn't seem to recognize that they were their children. However, because of their blood relationship, the 4 dogs soon became intimate with each other. Qin Haodong let them all out to play for a while, then turned to Bai Zipping and said, "Is Zhang Daji here? What time is the game scheduled for tonight?" Bai Zipping said, "He's already here. The game is scheduled to start at 7 p.m. It's almost time for us to enter. Then let's go. Let's go now." After that, Qin Haodong sent Dabai and Erbai back to the kennel and then walked to the dog-fighting ring with Damao and Ermao. At this time, the dog-fighting ring was already full of spectators. Those who could come here to watch the game were the elites of the upper class. They came here to find some excitement in their spare time. Qin Haodong immediately attracted everyone's attention as soon as he entered. On the one hand, he and Qi Wan were a pair of handsome men and beautiful women, and on the other hand, Damao and Ermao followed them closely. At the beginning, when the audience saw that Damao and Ermao were not bound by any rope, they screamed in horror. However, they soon found that the 2 dogs were very intelligent and did not show any aggression. So they stopped hiding and began to come over to watch. "Handsome, your 2 dogs are so beautiful. Do you want to sell them? You can name a price. Handsome, they are purebred snow mastiffs, right? How did you train them? Why are they so obedient? Handsome, can you leave your number? How about having supper together tonight?" Soon, a group of people surrounded Qin Haodong. Some of them were interested in Damao and Ermao, and some were interested in Qin Haodong himself. Although Qi Wan was around, there were still some young women and young ladies winking at him. Zhang Daji had already arrived at the dogfighting ring. He was sitting in the VIP seat with a proud smile on his face. Because he had won more than a dozen games in a row yesterday, he was pursued by many people today. As soon as he saw Qin Haodong enter, the smile on his face immediately disappeared. He was especially jealous when he saw Qi Wan holding Qin Haodong's arm tightly. He didn't understand why beautiful women liked this toy boy. There were the Nalan sisters in the past, and now there was such a beautiful woman. He couldn't suppress the jealousy in his heart. He stood up and walked to Qin Haodong's seat. He first looked at Qi Wan greedily, then glanced at Damao and Ermao sitting on both sides. Then he said to Qin Haodong with disdain, "Are these your dogs?" "They are mine," Qin Haodong said lightly. It's true that the person playing with the purebred snow mastiff. Yesterday, those 2 were almost bitten to death by my pit bull. They're all good-looking but useless things. Zhang Daji's words were full of sarcasm. Before Qin Haodong could speak, Damao and Ermao seemed to have felt his malice. The mane on their necks stood up, and they stared at him fiercely. They let out a low growl. He was shocked and quickly took 2 steps back to hide behind the bodyguard. Qin Haodong patted Damao and Ermao's head and said, "You two, be honest. Don't get angry when you see people who are uglier than you. They are different from you. Although they look like dogs, they are not dogs." As soon as he said this, the audience was in an uproar. Zhang Daji's lungs were about to explode. What did he mean by looking like a dog? What did he mean by looking uglier than a dog? How could he curse like that? "Qin Haodong, do you dare to compete with me with your 2 dogs?" He hated Qin Haodong, and he also hated Damao and Ermao. He swore in his heart that he would let his dogs kill Damao and Ermao. Qin Haodong glanced at him and said jokingly, "Isn't this the dog-fighting ring? What are you trying to compete for? Are you so avant-garde that you want to compete with me?" Chapter 294. The young ladies around him laughed even more happily. They didn't expect Qin Haodong to be so handsome and sharp. "You. Zhang Daji was so angry that his face turned red. He said angrily, "It's not me who wants to compete with your dog. It's my dog that wants to compete with your dog. Do you dare to bet?" Qin Haodong said, "Let's bet." "Why not? Tell me, how much do you want to bet? Do you dare to bet with me?" Zhang Daji said as he stretched out 2 fingers. "Isn't it just 200 million yuan? I'll bet with you." Qin Haodong said casually. He was very confident in the fighting capacity of Damao and Ermao. Betting with him on dogfighting was like giving money to him. Of course, the bigger the bet, the better. The people around him were shocked. No one had expected that this young man in ordinary clothes would bet 200 million yuan. This number was also far beyond Zhang Daji's expectation. He had thought that Qin Haodong was poor and that it would be good for him to bet 1 or 2 million yuan. Who would have thought that he would bet 200 million yuan? Although he was very confident in his medicated dog, he couldn't come up with so much money at the moment. Some of his previous savings had been completely invested in buying fighting dogs. He only had the 100 million yuan that he won from by zipping yesterday in his hand. He took back his fingers and said awkwardly, 200 million yuan is a little too much. I'm afraid you can't afford it if you lose. Let's bet 20 million yuan. Qin Haodong said, "It's up to you." "I don't care." Zhang Daji looked at the beautiful Qi Weiner again. He swallowed and said, "Beauty, would you like to play with me?" Qi Weiner looked at him with a sneer and said, "How do you want to bet?" "It's very simple. I'll give you 1 million yuan if I lose. If you lose, you have to drink with me tonight. Drink all night. How about that?" Zhang Daji said with a lascivious smile. Anyone could see his dirty mind. "Okay, I'll bet with you." Qi Weiner said, "But I don't care about your 1 million yuan. We need to change the bet." Seeing that Qi Wan had agreed, Zhang Daji said happily, "Tell me, what do you want to bet? As long as you mention it, I'll accept it immediately." Qi Weiner stretched out a long and slender leg, pointed to the high heels on her feet and said, "Just now my shoe was licked by Damao. If you lose, lick it clean for me." This, Zhang Daji's face immediately changed. Qi Weiner's proposal of such a bet was equivalent to equating him with a dog. "How about it? Do you dare to bet with me? Give me a straightforward answer. If you don't dare to bet, then scram to the side." Qi Wan hated the man who provoked Qin Haodong to the extreme. The onlookers immediately followed suit and made a ruckus. "Do you dare to bet or not? Hurry up and say something. Licking a shoe in exchange for a chance to spend the night with a beauty is the best deal. If I were you, I'd take the bet. If you're scared, then scram. Don't embarrass yourself here." Amidst the noise, Zhang Daji gritted his teeth and said, "Why not? I'll bet with you." This guy was extremely confident in his fighting dogs, especially since they had defeated Dabai and Erbai yesterday. He thought that these 2 snow mastiffs, which were the same breed as Dabai and Erbai, could not be much stronger. Then he said to Qi Weiner, "Beauty, wait a minute. I'll show you what it means to be handsome but useless. Although these 2 dogs look beautiful, they are not made for fighting at all. Just wait and drink with me for a night." Qi Weiner glanced at Zhang Daji and didn't even bother to say anything. She knew very well about the fighting power of Damao and Ermao. On the training ground of Daddy Security Company, security guards below the 6th level of overt power were no match for them at all, let alone an ordinary fighting dog. Challenging Damao and Ermao was obviously an act of courting death. Bai Zipping didn't know how powerful Damao and Ermao were. He whispered in Qin Haodong's ear with some worry, "Dr. Qin, isn't the bet a little too big?" Qin Haodong said, "No problem. Just make an agreement according to this." Seeing that he was full of confidence, Bai Zipping didn't say anything more. He immediately waved over 2 staff members and made a formal gambling agreement according to what Qin Haodong, Qi Weiner, and Zhang Daji had said. From now on, the bet would take effect. The onlookers were not afraid of making a big deal out of it. The surrounding audience cheered and looked forward to the match as soon as possible. However, as the owner of the dogfighting ring, Bai Zipping directly arranged for this gambling fight to be the finale. After Zhang Daji paid the deposit of 20 million yuan, he took the agreement and looked at Qin Haodong proudly. Then he returned to his seat. In his opinion, he had won the bet. After he left, Qin Haodong, Qi Weiner, and Bai Zipping sat down together and waited for the game to begin. Qi Weiner asked, "Haodong, didn't you say that the Tibetan Mastiff is the king of dogs? Did this guy get kicked in the head by a donkey? How dare he challenge Damao and Ermao?" Qin Haodong said, "You'd better ask Mr. Bai about this kind of professional question." Bai Zipping said, "The Tibetan Mastiff is indeed a fierce breed, but most of its fame is hyped. It is far less powerful than the folk propaganda." Hyped? How is that possible? Qi Weiner didn't believe it. Like ordinary people, she always thought that the Tibetan Mastiff was the king of dogs and the most powerful breed. Bai Zipping smiled and continued, "Although the Tibetan Mastiff is powerful, only the purebred and wild Tibetan Mastiff is the king. Those bred, even if they have the purest bloodline, don't have much fighting power in the dogfighting ring." This, although she knew that Bai Zipping must have given the most professional analysis, Qi Weiner still couldn't believe it. First, she had heard of the Tibetan Mastiff. Second, she had seen the power of Damao and Ermao, so the impression that the Tibetan Mastiff was the king of dogs was deeply rooted. Bai Zipping said, "Do you know how our fighting dogs are trained on weekdays? Every morning, they have to run for 2 hours to warm up, and then they are put on a special treadmill with a live chicken in front of it. They are allowed to run for 2 hours. To train a good fighting dog, we not only need to train their physical strength, but also their bite force and endurance. In contrast, the Tibetan Mastiff has a greater economic value. No one will casually use the Tibetan Mastiff, which is worth millions of yuan, as a fighting dog. If you want to sell it at a high price, it must have a good appearance. Think about it. If the Tibetan Mastiff is bitten and messy, how can you sell it?" He said this completely from his feelings. Yesterday, if his dogfighting ring hadn't been forced by Zhang Daji, he wouldn't have used the 2 purebred snow mastiffs, which were worth millions of yuan, as fighting dogs. As a result, they almost lost their lives. He sighed and said, "The reputation of the Tibetan Mastiff is completely hyped by profiteers. It's pure nonsense. I believe that the wild Tibetan Mastiff on the Qinghai, Tibet plateau is like a wolf, but the Tibetan Mastiff from a farm, no matter how good its bloodline is and how high its price is not as good as a well-trained fighting dog." Because of this, Zhang Daji dared to say that Damao and Ermao were good-looking but useless. That's why he dared to challenge the bet. Of course, there were some words that he didn't say completely. The reason why Zhang Daji was so confident was that his fighting dog was poisonous. Otherwise, Damao and Ermao wouldn't have been defeated so miserably. Qi Wan didn't say anything. Although she knew what Bai Zipping said was reasonable, she had absolute confidence in Damao and Ermao. These 2 purebred snow mastiffs would definitely restore the reputation of the Tibetan Mastiff family tonight. At 7:00 in the evening, the game officially began. The whole dogfighting ring was boiling. Bai Zipping's dogfighting ring was an oval building with a cement platform about 1 meter high in the middle. On the cement platform, there was an iron cage about 8 meters long, 8 meters wide, and 3 meters high. The iron cage was completely welded with thumb-thick steel bars, which were extremely strong. On both sides of the iron cage, there was an iron gate about 2 meters high and 1 meter wide. At the beginning of the game, the 2 sides put their fighting dogs in from here. Generally speaking, the fighting dogs brought by the guests would challenge the fighting dogs of the dogfighting ring. Then the guests would choose the dog they liked to bet on. In the first game, Zhang Daji put a tall male pit bull in. The dog began to become restless before entering the cage, looking extremely violent. A male pit bull was also put into the dogfighting ring. The two dogs were not much different in terms of body size. In contrast, Bai Ziping's fighting dog was stronger, while Zhang Daji's fighting dog looked more violent and fierce. After the two dogs entered the cage, the staff closed the dog cage, and the game officially began. According to the rules of the dog fighting ring, the game was over when a dog was completely unable to move or died after being bitten. As a fighting dog, pit bulls were very violent. After entering the cage, the two dogs immediately began to bite each other. The audience also shouted excitedly, cheering for the fighting dogs they had bet on. As a woman, Qi Wan instinctively grabbed Qin Haodong's arm when she saw the scene in the field. Dog fighting was not as powerful and beautiful as she had imagined. Instead, it was purely the most primitive crazy biting. The violence and blood were infinitely magnified at this moment. The two pit bulls fought fiercely. They even collided with each other and bit each other's necks, trying to give each other a fatal blow. Just a minute later, the two dogs began to have many wounds on their bodies, and their blood was constantly sprinkled on the concrete floor. Looking at the scene in the field, Zhang Daji could not help but frown slightly. He felt that this pit bull was a little familiar. It looked like the one that had almost been killed yesterday. But then he shook his head and felt that it was unlikely. It was good enough that the dog had been able to survive yesterday. How could it come to fight again? At the same time, he was also very confused. According to the results obtained yesterday, Bai Ziping had even sent 2 purebred snow mastiffs. There should be no dog fighting today. He even guessed that the dog fighting ring was likely to be closed today. In fact, Bai Ziping not only did not close the door, but he was also not afraid to fight at all. Where did he find these fighting dogs? Where did he get his confidence from? Anyway, the opponent's dogs were bound to lose. Bai Ziping would give in to him sooner or later. As he was thinking about this, the scene in the field had changed. The pit bull on his side had begun to slowly fall into a disadvantageous position. Its left front paw had been bitten off by the opponent, and its reaction speed was half a beat slower than the opponent. It was only a matter of time before it was defeated. How is this possible? Zhang Daji couldn't believe his eyes. If it weren't for the huge difference in the color of the fur of the two dogs, he would have thought that he was wrong. How could his dog be suppressed by the opponent? Logically speaking, the roles should have been reversed. He waved his hand and called over a young man next to him. He asked in a low voice, "Zhao what the hell is going on? Did you forget to put powder on the dog?" Zhao quickly said, "No, boss. I put it on the dog myself. There is no problem." Chapter 295. At that moment, there was a decisive change in the situation in the dogfighting ring. Zhang Daji's pit bull's throat was bitten off by his opponent and he collapsed to the ground. Those who had bet on Zhang Daji continued to cheer, while those who had not had a look of disappointment. Relatively speaking, more people had seen Zhang Daji's victory yesterday, so they had bet on his dog to win. Now, he had lost completely. The victorious pit bull seemed to be venting its frustration from yesterday's loss. Although its opponent had lost the ability to resist, it continued to bite madly. Later, when the referee announced that one side had won, a few staff members went in and barely separated them. People watched with relish. Dumao and Ermao seemed to have no interest in such a low-level fight. They lay at Qin Haodong's feet and were drowsy. Seeing that his dog had finally won, Bai Ziping waved his fists twice. He had been losing since yesterday, and now he had finally vented his anger. After the excitement, he turned to Qin Haodong and said, "Thank you, Dr. Qin. The antidote is really effective." Qin Haodong said, "The antidote alone is not enough. Your dog is more powerful." Bai Ziping said, "My dogs are strictly trained. If Zhang Daji hadn't used dirty tricks, I'm sure he wouldn't have won a game. What are you talking about? What antidote? Qi Wan asked in confusion. Bai Zipping briefly told her that Zhang Daji had drugged his dog. Qi Wan scolded, he's really shameless. He even came up with such a dirty way. Bai Zipping said angrily, I don't know where that bastard got the medicine. If it hadn't been for Dr. Qin, I wouldn't have known what was going on. When Zhang Daji realized that he had lost the first game, he asked his men to get rid of the dead dog. Then, he said to Zhao Er, who was next to him, go to Caucasian. Give me more drugs this time. Yes, boss. I'll arrange it now. Zhao Er turned around and left. It didn't take long for a tall Caucasian dog to be sent to the dog cage. The Caucasian dog was ferocious by nature, and its biggest characteristic was that its hair was especially long. Zhao Er had really put in a lot of effort this time. He had sprinkled 5 times the amount of powder on the dog. If one observed carefully, the powder would fall when the dog walked. Generally speaking, the dog breeds would be the same. The dog-fighting ring had also sent a tall Caucasian dog. Shouts rang out again as the 2 Caucasian sharks tore at each other. Looking at the dust rising from Zhang Daji's Caucasian dog, Bai Zipping scolded angrily, how many drugs did he use? It's actually smoking. He secretly rejoiced that he had invited Qin Haodong. If Qin Haodong had not concocted the antidote, there would have been no hope of winning the game. The 2 dogs were evenly matched. Qi Wan asked, Mr. Bai, can your dog still win? Of course. Bai Zipping said confidently, if you want to win a dog-fighting competition, there are 4 key points, the dog's explosive power, endurance, bite force, and ferocity. Generally speaking, the strength of a dog's bite was the most important. If a dog went up and bit its opponent's throat, then there would be no suspense in the match. Now the 2 dogs are of the same breed, and they have similar conditions in all aspects. In the end, it's a competition of endurance, which depends on daily training. This is the dogfighting ring. I've been training dogs for more than 10 years. No one is more professional than us in training. Zhang Daji's drug is to slow down my dog's reaction, endurance, and physical strength. But now that Dr. Qin has concocted the antidote, it's only a matter of time before we win. It seemed to verify Bai Zipping's statement. A few minutes later, Zhang Daji's Caucasian dog's physical strength was obviously declining. It began to slowly fall into a disadvantageous position. What's going on? Who can tell me what the hell is going on? Zhang Daji growled angrily. He had been waiting for his opponent's dog's physical strength to decline. As a result, his dog was exhausted before his opponent did anything. He couldn't understand why the powder, which had worked so well yesterday, suddenly lost its effect today. Was the dog-fighting ring prepared? But that was impossible. The drug he had brought was the latest genetic powder produced by M country. Except for the antidote in his hand, no one else could crack it. No matter how angry and confused he was, his Caucasian dog was defeated in the end. The dog-fighting ring won 2 games in a row. But it was far from over. In the next 3, 4, and 5 games, Zhang Daji's dogs were all defeated. At this time, Zhang Daji had lost his temper. No matter how angry he was, he couldn't change the situation on the field. One thing was certain, his powder had completely lost its effect. In order to make it convenient for the audience to bet, the dog-fighting ring arranged the schedule in advance. Both sides had to pay a deposit. Now, it was impossible for him to withdraw. He had lost 8 games in a row. Not only had he lost all the 100 million yuan he had won yesterday, but he had also lost another 20 million yuan. Bai Zipping was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. Zhang Daji had returned all the money he had won yesterday. Most of the audience had bet on Zhang Daji, which made him a lot of money. Seeing that there were only 2 games left, Zhang Daji's eyes were bloodshot. He couldn't lose again. He really couldn't lose again. Thinking of this, he took out a bottle of blue liquid from his pocket and handed it to Zhao Er, who was next to him. Put this liquid on the dog's nose before you go on the field. Although Zhao Er didn't know what the blue liquid was, he knew that it must be something very powerful. He turned around and left. In the 9th game, both sides sent out 2 Dogo Argentinos. No one noticed that Zhao Er touched the dog's nose with his right hand before putting the dog into the cage. After the 2 dogs entered the cage, Zhang Daji's Dogo Argentinos immediately went crazy. Its eyes were bloodshot, and it roared like an angry lion. In the stands, Bai Zipping frowned slightly and said, "No, this dog doesn't look normal. Although Dogo Argentinos are fierce, they are not this fierce." At that moment, Zhang Daji's Dogo Kung Fu Dogo Kung Fu Dogo Kung Fu 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 Kung Fu. Then blood sprayed out. The Dogo Argentinos fell to the ground, twitched a few times, and then became motionless. In less than 30 seconds, the battle was over. After a moment of shock, the audience immediately burst into cheers. It was a fatal blow. This kind of game was equivalent to a KO in a boxing match. But it seemed that things did not end there. The crazy Dogo Kek was still desperately biting the body of its opponent. Zhao Er brought 2 dog trainers into the dog cage. Not only did he fail to stop it, but he was also attacked by the Dogo Kek. In the end, a dog trainer knocked it out with a high-voltage electric baton and dragged it out of the dog cage. "There's something wrong with this dog." Bai Zipping frowned and said, "Generally speaking, no matter how crazy a fighting dog is, it won't attack people unless it's crazy. Moreover, the strength of these 2 dogs is not too different. They are even weaker than my dog. It shouldn't have such an overwhelming advantage." Qin Haodong said lightly, "It's very simple. Zhang Daji did something to this dog again. I don't know how he stimulated the potential of this dog. Not only did it make it crazy, but it also became extremely powerful. The reason is not much different from the berserkers in fantasy." Bai Zipping said angrily, "This bastard can do this? I'll ask someone to test the dog's blood now. It's useless. It's the same as the medicine on the dog's fur. You won't get any results." Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, "Ask someone to leave some blood and fur samples. I'll study them later." "Okay, I'll ask someone to do it." According to the rules of the dogfighting ring, the losing side had the right to test the blood of the winning side's fighting dog. Bai Zipping immediately asked his men to do it. Thinking of the violent appearance of the Dogo just now, he said to Qin Haodong, "Dr. Qin, what should we do next? Should we continue?" If it weren't for Qi Weiner's bet, he would even be willing to pay 20 million yuan to Zhang Daji. He didn't want to see Damao and Ermao be bitten to death by the dog. Qin Haodong said lightly, "It doesn't matter. Don't worry. Just go on." He had full confidence in this game. He had raised Damao and Ermao with all kinds of elixirs. They were comparable to holy beasts in the cultivation world. How could they lose to a crazy puppy? The game continued. The broadcast in the dogfighting ring sounded, announcing that the last game was between the Tibetan Mastiff from Wuxia and the Tosa from Nian. The audience cheered. After so many years of publicity, the Tibetan Mastiff had a special place in the hearts of Wuxia people. Many people hoped that the Tibetan Mastiff could win. However, the dogfighting ring announced that the odds of this game were 1-2. If you bet on the Tibetan Mastiff from Wuxia, you could get 500 yuan if you won. If you bet on the Tosa from Nian, you could get 2,000 yuan if you bet on the Tosa. This time, many people hesitated. Although they liked Tibetan Mastiffs, no one wanted to go against money, especially the audience who had seen the failure of Dubai and Erbai yesterday. They all placed their bets on the Tosa. It was no wonder that they hesitated. Everyone present knew about dogs. The Tosa was a large competitive fighting dog produced in Neon. Its bite force was 1.5 times that of a pit bull. It was known as the king of Oriental fighting dogs. It was even more famous than the Tibetan Mastiff in the dog fighting world. Because of this, most people still bet on the Tosa after the bets were placed. Zhang Daji finally won. He regained his confidence, and his face was full of arrogance and pride. He looked at Qin Haodong and said excitedly, "Boy, my dog will kill your dog." At the same time, he glanced at Qi Wan greedily, as if he had already seen the scene of this super beauty under his body. The game officially began. Zhao Er put a tall Tosa into the dog cage. Just like last time, he secretly wiped the tip of the Tosa's nose with his right hand. Qin Haodong took Dumao and Ermao to the front of the dog cage. He opened the door and said, "Dumao, you are a boy. You should do this kind of bloody thing." Dumao seemed to understand him. Without any hesitation, he jumped into the dog cage. He walked leisurely, holding his head high and chest out, like a king looking down on the world. He did not take the Tosa in his eyes at all. When the Tosa saw Dumao, it flinched a little at first, but it quickly entered the state of madness. After letting out a loud roar, it fiercely pounced on Dumao. Its movements were fast and fierce, like a mad lion. Dumao stood there quietly without any movement, as if he was scared silly. He was waiting for the Tosa to attack. The audience exclaimed, and everyone's hearts were in their mouths for this beautiful snow mastiff. Chapter 296. Well done. Zhang Daji jumped up excitedly. "I've told you that snow mastiffs are just like that toy boy. They're good-looking but useless." Bai Zipping sighed as he looked at the scene. Although he didn't know what method Qin Haodong had used to make Dumao grow up quickly, it was only a month-old puppy. It was normal for it to be scared silly when it saw such a fierce Tosa. He reached out to cover his eyes. He couldn't bear to see Dumao being bitten to death by the Tosa. At this moment, an incredible scene happened. Seeing that the Tosa's fierce mouth was already in front of it, Dumao finally moved. Its huge body gently twisted to the side, dodging the Tosa's attack. Then, it raised its right front claw and hit the Tosa's neck fiercely. This slap was so powerful that the ferocious Tosa was slapped 4 or 5 meters away. Its body heavily hit the dog cage next to it before it stopped. The audience was in an uproar. Although the audience had watched countless dog fights, they had never seen such a scene. Wasn't the most powerful weapon in a fight the teeth? Why did it change to claws? What was going on? Was it boxing? Zhang Daji was confused. He had expected the Tosa to tear Dumao's throat, but he didn't expect that his dog would be beaten like a dog. The Tosa got up from the ground. Although it didn't know what had happened, it had entered a state of madness. Its body didn't feel pain, so it roared again and rushed at Dumao. At this time, Dumao was really like a martial arts master. He was not in a hurry. He could easily avoid the Tosa's fatal blow and casually hit the Tosa with his paw, making the Tosa roll on the ground. Then, a strange scene happened in the dogfighting ring. The previous scene of 2 dogs biting each other was gone. Instead, one dog was using its 2 front paws to beat the other dog. The manic Tosa rushed left and right and launched dozens of attacks, but it did not even touch a single hair of Dumao. After going berserk, its speed and strength were not worth mentioning in front of Dumao. On the contrary, it was beaten to the point that it was covered with scars and crawled on the ground. Bai Zipping's eyes widened in surprise and he murmured, "What a monster! It's a monster! In all his years of dog fighting, he had never seen anything like De Mao's almost demonic fighting style. He was even smarter than a human. Bastard, is this still a dog? Zhang Daji was so mad that he smashed the cup in his hand on the ground. A few minutes later, although the Tosa was still violent, De Mao had lost his interest in playing with it. Seeing an opportunity, it suddenly pounced on the Tosa, and its two front claws pushed the Tosa to the ground. One of its front claws was pressed against the Tosa's head, and the other was pressed against its chest. Tosa, who was originally extremely powerful after going berserk, had no room to resist in front of De Mao. Even though it struggled desperately, it still could not get rid of the two mountain-like front claws. Stepping on the Tosa, Amori suddenly opened its bloody mouth and tore its throat. The same thing happened again, but this time, Zhang Daji's Tosa was the loser. After easily killing the Tosa, De Mao looked like a victorious general. He circled around the dog cage and then walked out leisurely. Long live the Tibetan Mastiff. The Tibetan Mastiff is too powerful. I am being forced. Divine Hound. As expected of our Huaxia's divine dog. There was a burst of cheers in the dog fighting ring, and even some people who had bet on the Tosa also shouted. After all, the Tibetan Mastiff was the most popular dog breed in Huaxia. Zhang Daji's face was pale. He fell into the chair behind him. Although he had used all his dirty tricks, he had still lost. A few hours ago, he had thought that he could take Bai Ziping's dog-fighting ring for himself and make his family look up to him. Now, not only had he failed, but he had also lost all his capital. Suddenly, he thought of the bet with Qi Weiner. He had wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to steal Qin Haodong's woman for himself, but now he had lost the game that he thought he would win. He was the dignified young master of the Zhang family. Qi Wan's shoes would never be able to hold her head high in Jiangnan City. Thinking of this, he stood up and wanted to take advantage of the chaos to slip away. Unexpectedly, as soon as he turned around, he saw Qin Haodong and Qi Wan standing in front of him, as well as De Mao and Mao. Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Child Zhang, where are you going?" I, Zhang Daji stammered for a long time, but he couldn't say a complete sentence. Qin Haodong said, "The bet is over. Child Zhang, shouldn't you honor your bet?" Zhang Daji said, "I've already bet 20 million on the dog-fighting ring. You can take it directly." Then he turned around and was about to bypass Qin Haodong, but Qi Weiner stopped him. "Wait a minute, you haven't honored our bet yet." As she spoke, she stretched out her long legs and revealed the red high-heeled shoes on her feet. De Mao had licked the tip of her shoes while they were playing. The saliva on it was now covered with dust. It looked dirty and disgusting. Zhang Daji was stunned. How could the dignified young master of the Zhang family lower his head to lick the tip of a woman's shoes? Licking the tip of a woman's shoe, he shouted angrily, "Qin Haodong, don't go too far. Don't think that you can do whatever you want with the Nailan family behind you. If you annoy me, I can still destroy you." Qin Haodong raised his hand and shook the agreement in his hand. He said, "It's written in black and white. You signed the agreement yourself. How can you say that I went too far? It's natural for you to accept your defeat. Don't think that I don't know what you were thinking at the beginning. Now you have to pay the price." "Yes, it's natural for me to accept my defeat, since you've signed it. Hurry up and lick the soles of other people's shoes. Are you still a man? You have to keep your word. If you accept your defeat, you have to accept your defeat." Some of the onlookers couldn't stand Zhang Daji's face, and some just wanted to watch the fun. No matter what the reason was, they were all on Qin Haodong's side. "Shut up, all of you!" Zhang Daji shouted. The onlookers were shocked and stepped back one after another. Then he pointed to Qin Haodong and Qi Weiner and shouted, "Teach them a lesson. Break the legs of the man and take the woman away." Zhang Daji was so angry that he threw caution to the wind. He guessed that Qin Haodong had already found another woman, and Nalan Wushuang would not protect him anymore. Receiving the master's order, more than a dozen bodyguards behind him immediately rushed up with steel pipes and surrounded Qin Haodong and Qi Wan, in the middle. But because Dumao and Ermao were next to them, they did not dare to do anything directly. Qin Haodong, you asked for it. Zhang Daji waved his hand and shouted to the bodyguards, kill him. He had spent a lot of money to hire these bodyguards. Some of them were professional special soldiers, and some were boxers of underground boxing. In his opinion, they were more than enough to deal with Qin Haodong. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Qi Weiner had already moved before Qin Haodong could do anything. These bodyguards, who were highly relied on by Zhang Daji, were nothing in front of a master of covert power. Before they realized what was going on, they had been kicked to the ground by Qi Weiner's two long legs. They kept screaming. The surrounding people were stunned at first, and then they applauded. No one had expected that this beautiful woman would be so good at martial arts. The scene that could only be seen on TV in the past was really happening in front of them. After getting rid of the bodyguard, Qi Wan, did a beautiful kick and directly put Zhang Daji on the ground. Then she stretched out the tip of the shoe in front of him and said, "Are you going to lick it or not?" The kick was so powerful that Zhang Daji almost fainted. Although he regretted it now, he couldn't do it in front of so many people. Licking the tip of a woman's shoe, he could only grit his teeth and not make a sound. Qin Haodong squatted down and said in front of him, "You don't want to lick it, do you? Fine, I'll find 2 willing ones. Yours." Then he snapped his fingers. Dumao and Ermao immediately came over and licked Zhang Daji's face with their big red tongues. "Come lick go." "Ah. Help, ask them to stop." Looking at Dumao and Ermao's bloody mouths, Zhang Daji was so scared that he almost peed his pants. If these 2 dogs became fierce and bit him on the neck, he would be finished. He had just seen Dumao kill the Tosa with his own eyes. Now, the Tosa's blood was still on Dumao's mouth. "I'm convinced. Lick, let me go. I'll lick it right away." Qin Haodong snapped his fingers again, and Dumao and Ermao immediately stopped. Zhang Daji raised his head and gasped. He raised his hand to wipe the wet saliva on his face and finally focused his eyes on the tip of Qi Wan's shoe. After hesitating for a while, he really stuck out his tongue and licked the high-heeled shoe. People around him rushed to look at it. Some even took out their mobile phones and began to take pictures. Looking at Zhang Daji's appearance, Qi Wan suddenly felt disgusted. She lifted her foot and kicked him out. "Get out of here. Don't let me see you again." Although he had been kicked into the air, Zhang Daji felt very lucky. In comparison, it was a little better. Only the busybodies in the crowd were quite sorry that they didn't take pictures of this classic moment. Tonight's game was over, and the audience dispersed. Qin Haodong left the dogfighting ring with Bai Zipping's thanks. He first sent Qi Wan back to the daddy security company, and then rushed home. In the Lin's villa, after dinner, the little fellow said, "It's all Papa's fault. He took Dumao and Ermao away. There's no one to play with me now." Lin Momo said, "Papa has something to do. Mama will accompany you to the yard to play football." "Well, let's go out and play football." The little fellow picked up a ball and went to the yard with Lin Momo. The mother and daughter kicked the ball one after another. Suddenly, the little fellow kicked too hard, and the ball rolled to the gate. She quickly chased after it. The little girl was trying to catch the ball. Suddenly, a pair of black leather shoes appeared in front of her, and then the ball was held in someone's hand. She looked up and saw a young man in his 20s standing in front of her. He was wearing a famous brand suit, and his hair was meticulously combed. He was carrying a large backpack on his back. Saber had been guarding her. When he saw the young man, he immediately stood next to the little fellow. As long as the man made any strange movements, he would launch a fatal blow. "Uncle, this is my ball. Please give it back to me," the little fellow said to the young man. The young man grabbed Tang Tang's shoulder and said excitedly, "Tang Tang, you shouldn't call me uncle. You should call me Papa. Bastard, let me go. I have Papa. I don't know you." The little fellow shook off the young man. She didn't even want the ball. She turned her head and ran back. At this time, Lin Momo came over. When she saw the young man's face, she immediately felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She stood there with a dull look, unable to say a word. The little fellow came over and hugged Lin Momo's thigh. She cried, "Mama, he's a big bad guy. He said he's Papa. Drive him away." Chapter 297. No matter how the little fellow shouted, Lin Momo just stood there like a wax figure. Although her body did not move and her face did not show any expression, her mind was in turmoil. Tang Long, the name that had been deeply engraved in her bones, was completely integrated with the handsome face of the man in front of her. Fate made fools of people. Because of a drunken encounter, they walked into the same hotel room. Although everything happened that night after she was drunk, the man's appearance was still fresh in Lin Momo's memory. After 5 years, he had not changed at all. After the incident, she had used all the power of the Lin family to find Tang Long, but she could not find the man's shadow all over Wuxia. Originally, she thought that Tang Long was just a passerby in her life. The past was the past, and she could get over it easily like other women. She did not expect that she would have Tang Tang. However, when Tang Tang cried and asked her for her father countless times, she used to hate this man. She also wanted to find him and give her daughter a complete family, but she had never seen Tang Long. Later, Qin Haodong appeared in her life. Although her daughter had her ideal father and she thought of this man less and less often, the name Tang Long was always a thorn in her heart, making her feel humble and unworthy of Qin Haodong's sincere feelings for her. Under Qin Haodong's comfort, her life with Tang Tang became more and more happy, and their relationship became more and more fulfilling. When she thought that everything would get better, this man suddenly appeared in front of her. How could she face it? Her relationship was easier to deal with. After all, it was just a wrong encounter. It was just an ill-fated relationship. Let bygones be bygones. But what about Tang Tang? Anyway, this man was Tang Tang's biological father. If she refused, would she be irresponsible to Tang Tang? Would she be blamed by Tang Tang in the future? And Qin Haodong was deeply in love with her. Would his feelings for her be affected after Tang Long appeared? Would he still love her as before? How could this be? Was God playing with her? When she needed this man the most, she could not see him. Now that her life was peaceful and she did not need this man, he appeared in her life. What should she do? What should she do? For a moment, all kinds of thoughts flooded her mind, making her feel like her brain was about to explode. Saber had been standing by. As a veteran, he immediately saw that there was an unusual relationship between Lin Momo and the young man. It seemed that the boss's backyard was going to be on fire. However, he was just a bodyguard, and it was not suitable for him to intervene in emotional affairs. He could only hope that Qin Haodong would come back soon. "Mama, what's wrong with you? Say something." The little fellow shook Lin Momo's arm hard. Tang Long took 2 steps forward and said softly, "Momo, did my appearance surprise you?" Finally, Lin Momo moved and said in a dry voice, "What are you doing here?" Tang Long said with self-blame, "Momo, I'm sorry. I've made you suffer all these years. But you have to give me a chance to explain. I have my own difficulties." Lin Momo said, "Go. It's been 5 years. You don't need to explain. Don't show up in my life again, okay?" Tang Long said eagerly, "Momo, I know I'm sorry, but you have to give me a chance to explain. Even if you want to drive me away, you have to listen to me first, okay? The little fellow took Lin Momo's hand and said, "Mama, who is he?" Thinking that this man was her daughter's biological father, Lin Momo sighed and said, "Come with me." Then, she led Tang Long into the living room. It was not good to let everyone know about this kind of thing in public. After entering the room, Lin Momo sat on the sofa. She seemed to feel that her mother's mood was not right. The little fellow sat quietly in her arms. Tang Long took off his backpack and opened it. He took out a beautiful Barbie doll and several toys from it. He gave them to Tang Tang and said, "Tang Tang, do you like them?" "No, Papa said that I can't accept things from strangers." The little fellow did not like the man in front of her. She was even a little hostile. She looked at him with full of vigilance. Tang Long said, "Tang Tang, how can I be a stranger?" "I'm your father," the little fellow cried. "Nonsense, my papa's name is Qin Haodong. If you talk nonsense again, believe it or not, I'll let Dumao and Ermao bite you to death." Tang Long looked at Lin Momo with a wry smile and said, "Say something and tell your daughter that I'm her real father." Lin Momo hesitated for a moment and said, "Didn't you say you wanted to explain?" "Hurry up, I don't have much time." "Well, I know you haven't forgiven me yet." Tang Long said with a regretful expression, "I know it's not easy for you to raise a child all these years, but you can't blame me. It's all fate. When I woke up that day, you were already gone. Later, I asked around and found out that you were the princess of Lin's group. I was just an orphan. I felt that the gap between our identities was too big for me to match you, so I didn't go to find you. At that time, I had already booked a ticket to M country. In order to get an identity equal to yours, I worked and studied in M country for several years, and finally got a double degree in business administration from Harvard College." Speaking of this, he looked up at Lin Momo's expression. There was no shock, no emotion, not even any change. "Before returning home, I asked about you. I knew that you were the president of Lin's group and had a daughter named Tang Tang. According to the time, I knew that she was my biological daughter. Momo, thank you so much. Thank you for helping me raise my daughter. This time, I've thought about it. I'll help you manage the company well and raise my daughter well. I'll repay you with a lifetime of kindness." Then, he took out a red diploma from his backpack and said, "Momo, look, this is the result of my years of study. I'll definitely be your right-hand man in the future." Lin Momo didn't look at the certificate. She didn't even want to look at Tang Long. At this time, she was extremely conflicted. If Tang Long had appeared 2 months ago, she might have accepted all this easily. At least, she would consider giving Tang Long a chance for her daughter. But now, she had fallen deeply in love with Qin Haodong. She loved him so much that she couldn't accept another man no matter what. "Momo, please believe me. Believe that I'm sincere to you. Although we only had one night, I really fell in love with you since then. In the past 5 years, I've never looked for other women. I've always wanted to treat you and Tang Tang well when I come back." Tang Long was talking hard. Suddenly, the door behind him opened, and a tall and straight figure appeared at the door. "Papa, you're back." The little fellow immediately jumped out of Lin Momo's arms and rushed into Qin Haodong's arms. She turned back and pointed at Tang Long and shouted, "Papa, a bad guy is here. He said he's my papa. Hit him." Qin Haodong's position in the little fellow's heart was irreplaceable, so she was very angry when Tang Long said he was her father. When he entered the door, Saber had already hinted to Qin Haodong that there was a strange man in the living room who seemed to have a special relationship with Lin Momo. Qin Haodong trusted Lin Momo very much, but he was curious about who the man was. However, when he saw Tang Long, he was surprised, and then a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Although he had been reincarnated, he was the only real Tang Long, so the Tang Long in front of him must be a fake. No one knew where he came from. The fake Tang Long Long didn't know that the fake Li Gui had bumped into the real Li Gui. He put on a warm smile and said, "You're Qin Haodong. I know you're Tang Tang's godfather. Thank you for taking care of Tang Tang for so long." Before he finished speaking, Qin Haodong had already lifted his right leg and kicked him hard in the lower abdomen. The kick directly sent him flying and he hit the opposite wall hard. "Great! Great! Papa beat the bad guy." The little fellow raised her two little hands and shouted excitedly. Lin Momo was also shocked. Although she hadn't figured out how to explain it, she didn't expect that Qin Haodong would start beating people as soon as he entered the door. "Haodong, don't be impulsive." She hurried forward to stop Qin Haodong, for fear that he would beat Tang Long again. If he really hurt Tang Long, she wouldn't be able to explain it to Tang Tang. Qin Haodong patted her on the shoulder and comforted her, "Don't worry, I know what to do." Then he handed the little fellow to Lin Momo, grabbed Tang Long's collar and pulled him over. He kicked Tang Long's knee and made him kneel on the ground. Then he said, "Tell me, who sent you here? What's your purpose?" At this time, he had a preliminary estimate in his mind. It was likely that this matter had something to do with Wilson Company. After failing to assassinate him, James could only find another way in another direction. If he could let the fake Tang Long gain Lin Momo's trust and enter Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, there was a great chance that he could get the secret prescription. The fake Tang Long roared angrily, "I don't understand what you're talking about. Why did you beat me? If you don't tell the truth, believe it or not, I'll kill you." Qin Haodong said with a murderous look. You don't think that you can win Momo's trust like this. I'm Tang Tang's father." Lin Momo also took Qin Haodong's arm and said, "Haodong, don't be emotional." Qin Haodong glanced at the fake and sneered, "Do you really think that you can fool the real one? Now let me reveal your true face." Then he reached out and grabbed the fake Tang Long, raised his hand, and tore his collar. "What are you doing? Let me go." The fake Tang Long panicked and wanted to resist, but he was no match for Qin Haodong. He couldn't move as if he was a chicken. Qin Haodong groped around his eyes and neck for a while. Suddenly, he tore hard, and the fake Tang Long's face and the hair on the top of his head were pulled off. Looking at the strange scene in front of her, Lin Momo was shocked and screamed. Qin Haodong put his arm around her shoulder and shook the thing in his hand to comfort her. "Don't be afraid. It's just a mask. This guy is a fake." It had to be said that this mask was indeed exquisitely made, unlike the previous ones. Skin. The mask seemed to be a high-tech product. It was soft to the touch, no different from human skin. Lin Momo calmed down and looked at the fake Tang Long in front of her again. After tearing off the mask, the fake Tang Long was much older than before. He was about 40 years old. Although he also had an oriental face, his facial outline was somewhat similar to Tang Long's, but his appearance was completely different. It turned out that she was almost cheated by a fake, which made Lin Momo very angry. She said angrily, "Who are you? Why did you lie to me?" Chapter 298. The middle-aged man saw that he had been exposed, so he simply shut up. "Bastard, son of AB*TCH, Lin Momo was really angry. She had never scolded anyone, but now she was swearing. Qin Haodong patted her on the shoulder and comforted her, "Don't worry, let me do it." He turned to look at the middle-aged man and directly used mind manipulating. "Tell me, who are you? Who asked you to come?" After a flash of confusion in the middle-aged man's eyes, he said honestly, "My name is Kim Luanhai. I'm from Koryo. I've been a financial spy all over the world for years. This time, James hired me to come to Wuxia. James, you're really a foreigner who doesn't give up." Qin Haodong sneered and asked, "Why did he ask you to come to Wuxia?" "First, he helped me change my appearance and then gave me some information. He asked me to pretend to be a Huaxia man named Tang Long. He said that he was Lin Momo's old lover and the father of her daughter. He asked me to gain Lin Momo's trust and enter Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. If I could get the formula of the blood revival oral liquid, he would give me a commission of 100 million yuan. If I could get the formula and destroy Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, he would give me a commission of 200 million yuan. Qin Haodong nodded. It was similar to what he had guessed, but James was more ruthless. Not only did he want to take the formula, but he also wanted to destroy Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. He fiddled with the mask in his hand and asked, "What's this? How did you get it?" Kim Luanhai said, "It's a mask James gave me. I heard that it's made of high-tech nanomaterials and 3D printing technology. As long as I wear it on my face, no one can recognize me." Qin Haodong turned to look at Lin Momo and said, "Do you have any other questions?" Lin Momo shook her head. Qin Haodong had asked almost all the questions she needed to ask. "What are you going to do with this man?" "Take Tang Tang back to sleep first." Qin Haodong said, "James is still unwilling to give up. I want to have a good talk with him." Then, he dragged Kim Luanhai into the study, turned on the computer, and made a video call to James. The phone rang for a long time before it was connected. James' big face appeared on the computer screen. At this time, he was lying on the bed with his upper body naked. Beside him was a foreign woman who was as plump as a cow. After the phone was connected, James patted the woman's butt and motioned her to leave. Then he said to Qin Haodong, "Qin, you're interrupting me." As a world-renowned financial tycoon, he had regained his previous calmness. It was impossible to tell that he had just been defeated by Qin Haodong a few days ago. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "I have a gift for you. Would you like to have a look?" As he said that, he pulled Kim Luanhai in front of the camera. Seeing Kim Luanhai's true face, James was shocked at first and then said, "Qin, you're very powerful, more powerful than I thought. Can you tell me how you saw through it?" He had spent millions of dollars to get this 3D nanotechnology mask. It was the latest technological product. After wearing it, no one would be able to detect it. He even found several experts in this field to identify Kim Luanhai. In the end, no one found any problems. He couldn't understand how such a good mask could be seen through by the young man in front of him as soon as he arrived in Huaxia. In fact, if he had asked Kim Luanhai to pretend to be someone else, he might have been able to get away with it if Qin Haodong didn't pay attention. Unfortunately, he had asked Kim Luanhai to pretend to be Tang Long, who was Qin Haodong before his reincarnation. How could the fake Li Gui not be exposed when he met the real Li Gui? Of course, Qin Haodong wouldn't tell him this secret. He said, "I can see through such a low-level thing at a glance. Please, if you want to play with it in the future, don't play with these children's things." James touched his head and said, "Qin, I really appreciate you. Come to me. I can give you more money than you can spend in this life. Also, why do you have to work so hard to open a factory? Just sell it to me. It's more profitable than running a factory." Qin Haodong said coldly, "James, give up. I'm warning you, don't think about the formula of the blood revival oral liquid in the future, or you'll end up like him." After that, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He lifted his leg and kicked Kim Luanhai in the chest. Kim Luanhai spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't even have time to scream before he fell to the ground on his back and stopped breathing. "Did you kill him?" James asked. Qin Haodong's ruthlessness and decisiveness were far beyond his expectations. Qin Haodong kicked Kim Luanhai's body aside and said with a murderous look, "If you make trouble for me again, I'll kill you too." James looked at him with a strange smile. He shook his head and hung up the phone. Qin Haodong made 2 more phone calls. Then, he turned back to the living room, made himself a cup of tea, and slowly drank it. "Haodong, aren't you going to sleep?" Lin Momo came out of the bedroom and sat next to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong reached out and held her in his arms. He said, "Don't worry, there will be guests coming later." Guests? What guests? It's so late. How can there be guests? Qin Haodong smiled mysteriously and said, "I guess there will be." You're playing tricks. Lin Momo rolled her eyes at him charmingly and said, "Haodong, it's lucky that you recognized the fake one today. Otherwise, I really don't know what to do. Before I met you, I fantasized every day that Tang Tang's father would show up, so that he could give my daughter a complete family. Now that I have you, I really don't want that person to come again. I'm worried every day. What if he really shows up? After all, Tang Tang is his biological daughter, and I can't stop them from recognizing each other." Qin Haodong smiled and tightened his arms around her. He said, "Don't worry, I promise you, this kind of thing will never happen." Are you kidding me? I'm Tang Tang's biological father. If there's another one, it must be fake. Oh. Although Lin Momo didn't know why Qin Haodong was so confident, she nodded out of trust in him. Qin Haodong kissed her on the cheek and said, "Go back to sleep first. You have to go to work tomorrow. Aren't you going to sleep? I'll wait a little longer. If there are no guests, I'll go back to sleep." Qin Haodong said as he carried Lin Momo back to the bedroom. Then, he covered her with the quilt and turned back to the living room to continue drinking tea. When he almost finished the pot of tea, suddenly there was a riot outside the villa. More than a dozen policemen rushed into the Lin's villa and pointed their guns at Qin Haodong, who was sitting on the sofa. The leading middle-aged policeman shouted, "Don't move. Put your hands up." Qin Haodong put down the teacup in his hand, looked up at the middle-aged policeman, and said with a smile, "It's a little inefficient. It's 10 minutes later than I expected." At this moment, Lin Ziyuan, who was upstairs, heard the noise. He hurried out in his pajamas. He came to the middle-aged policeman and said, "Director Lu, what the hell is going on?" The middle-aged policeman was Lu Guohua, the deputy director in charge of criminal investigation in the East City branch. He was familiar with Lin Ziyuan. Lu Guohua said, "Boss Lin, I'm really sorry to come to your house so late, but I have to do my duty. I'm here to arrest a murderer." "A murderer? How is that possible?" Lin Ziyuan said, "Director Lu, is there any misunderstanding? How could there be a murderer in our house? This is absolutely true. There is no misunderstanding." Lu Guohua pointed to Qin Haodong and said, "Who is this man?" Lin Ziyuan said, "This is my son-in-law." Lu Guohua said, "He is the murderer. Just now, he killed a man from Koryo named Kim Luanhai." Qin Haodong smiled slightly and said, "Director Lu, you are really amazing. You deserve to be a policeman." The man surnamed Kim wore the most advanced 3D nano mask in the world. He pretended to be a man named Tang Long and came to our house to cheat. I just exposed him not long ago. You even know his real name. Do you even know how I killed him?" Lu Guohua's expression changed. He knew that he had let the cat out of the bag. He quickly said, "Don't talk nonsense. Anyway, you are a murderer. There is no doubt about that." After that, he waved to his men behind him and said, "Handcuff him and take him away." Two young policemen stepped forward and were about to handcuff Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong said, "Wait a minute. It's not urgent to handcuff him. We don't know who will be handcuffed later." Then he looked at Lu Guohua and said, "Director Lu, did James call you and say that I killed someone?" Lu Guohua's expression changed again. He had a bad premonition that things had progressed to this point. "Don't talk nonsense. I don't know James." "Then how did you know that I killed someone?" Qin Haodong's tone was still calm. "Someone called to report it." "Someone reported it? Are you kidding? This is my house. How could anyone know that I killed someone? Qin Haodong said, Director Liu, you don't have to deny it anymore. Just half an hour ago, James, the boss of Wilson Company in M Country, called you and promised you $2 million. He asked you to take me in and never come out for the rest of my life. Am I right? This. Lu Guohua's face was full of surprise. This matter was extremely secretive. How did Qin Haodong know? As if reading his mind, Qin Haodong continued, not only did I know that James promised you $2 million this time, but he also transferred $3 million to your account 7 times before, right? Nonsense. This is slander. Lu Guohua shouted at the 2 policemen angrily, are you all dead? What are you standing there for? Hurry up and handcuff him. The 2 policemen came to their senses and went forward to handcuff Qin Haodong. Just then, the door of Lin's villa opened again. 7 or 8 people in police inspector uniforms rushed in from the outside. The leader was Yang Guizhong, the captain of the police inspector brigade of the municipal bureau. All of you, stop. After entering the door, Yang Guizhong immediately stopped the 2 policemen who were about to handcuff Qin Haodong. Captain Yang, why are you here? Lu Guohua was both surprised and nervous. The duty of the police inspector detachment was to supervise the fair and honest law enforcement of the police. At this time, Yang Guizhong came to Lin's villa not for Qin Haodong, but for him. Yang Guizhong waved his hand behind him and said in a cold voice, take his gun first, and then handcuff him. The 2 superintendents immediately stepped forward. They first took Lu Guohua's pistol, and then put a pair of silver handcuffs on his wrists. Qin Haodong looked at him with a smile and said, Director Liu, I'm right. The handcuffs don't necessarily belong to anyone. Chapter 299. Lu Guohua, who was handcuffed, panicked and shouted to Yang Guizhong, Captain Yang, what are you doing? Is there any misunderstanding? Yang Guizhong said coldly, there is no misunderstanding. You know what you have done. Lu Guohua said, Captain Yang, this must be a misunderstanding. I have been doing my duty and working hard. I really haven't done anything illegal. Director Liu, it seems that you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Qin Haodong said, but it doesn't matter. I'll let you see the coffin. Then he turned on the laptop in front of him and pressed the play button. Soon, the conversation between James and Lu Guohua came from the speaker. Director Liu, 2 million yuan has been transferred to your account. As long as you can put Qin Haodong in prison, the money is yours. Mr. James, this is not easy to do. 2 million yuan is fine, but I want US dollars. Listening to the audio from the computer, Lu Guohua's face turned pale. He never thought that his phone call would be recorded. At the same time, he couldn't figure out how Qin Haodong did it. Why did he record his phone call in advance? Could it be that Qin Haodong knew that he was going to deal with him? After the recording was played, Qin Haodong looked at Lu Guohua and said with a smile, how about it, Director Liu? Are you satisfied with this gift? Are you surprised? Lu Guohua was silent. His brain was working fast, thinking about how to find a suitable excuse to explain this matter. It seems that you are not satisfied. Qin Haodong said, it doesn't matter. I have more here. Then he sent a few pieces of A4 paper to Lu Guohua. Glancing at what was recorded on it, Lu Guohua's body shook and he almost fell to the ground. In the past, Huang Weili hired gangsters to beat and suppress leukemia patients who protested. Many cases had constituted assault crimes, but they were all suppressed by him. Because of this, he received $3 million from Wilson's company. At this time, the information in front of him clearly recorded his transactions with Wilson's company, including the record of the $3 million transfer. How about it? Are you satisfied now? You don't have to find a way to quibble. Qin Haodong said and handed the documents to Yang Guizhong. Lu Guohua's face was ashen. He was silent for a while, but after a while, he roared, "Qin, how dare you set me up? If you don't let me get better, you won't get better either." Then he turned to Yang Guizhong and shouted, "I admit that I received $2 million from Wilson, but there is nothing wrong with my law enforcement. Qin Haodong did kill someone. He killed a man from Koryo named Kim Luanhai. I've seen the video James sent me. It's true. We must arrest him." After he finished speaking, everyone's eyes focused on Qin Haodong. Of course, Lu Guohua would be arrested, but if Qin Haodong really killed someone, he would not be able to escape the punishment of the law. Qin Haodong smiled and said to Lu Guohua, "Sometimes what you see is not necessarily true. I'm a doctor. How can I kill people casually? Don't quibble. I saw it all. You kicked Kim Luanhai to death. Although he was a commercial spy, it was also illegal for you to kill him." Lu Guohua roared wildly, "Boy, you can go to prison. I'll be sentenced to 10 or 20 years at most. You've committed murder. Don't think about getting out for the rest of your life. You're thinking too much." Qin Haodong smiled at him, turned his head to a bedroom next to him and said, "Captain Naylan, come out and explain." As soon as the bedroom door opened, two people came out. One was Naylan Wuxia, the captain of the Jiangnan Province Criminal Police Team, and the other was Kim Luanhai, a commercial spy from Koryo. When he saw Kim Luanhai being escorted out by Naylan Wuxia, Lu Guohua was shocked. He had seen Kim Luanhai being kicked to death by Qin Haodong in the video. How could he come back to life in the blink of an eye? Yang Guizhong said to Naylan Wuxia, "Captain Naylan, what's going on? Kim Luanhai is suspected of fraud and commercial espionage. He was arrested by Dr. Qin. He just called me to report it, so I came to deal with it." Naylan Wuxia glanced at Lu Guohua and said, "Dr. Qin asked me to wait in the room for a while. He said there was a good show to watch. Now it seems that the show is really wonderful." Qin Haodong said to Lu Guohua, "How about it? Director Lu, what else do you want to say?" Lu Guohua was completely dumbfounded. Only now did he realize that both James and he had been fooled by the young man in front of him. "Dr. Qin, will go first." Yang Guizhong waved his hand to his men and said, "Take him away." After Lu Guohua was taken away, Naylan Wuxia asked, "Haodong, what are you doing?" She was on duty that night, but Qin Haodong called her over, but she didn't tell her what had happened. Lin Ziyuan also asked with a confused face, "Yes, Haodong, what's going on?" Qin Haodong smiled and asked both of them to sit down. Then he began to tell them slowly. It turned out that after learning that Kim Luanhai was a spy sent by James, he started a new plan. Wilson Company had been operating in Jiangnan for so long, and there must be many forces left by them. If they were not uprooted, there would be trouble in the future. Therefore, when he was on the phone with James, he deliberately put on a show. He pretended to kick Kim Luanhai to death in a fit of anger. In fact, the kick only made Kim Luanhai vomit blood. His injury wasn't as serious as it looked, and he just fainted. After hanging up the phone, he immediately asked Chi Weiner to monitor James' phone. Sure enough, James thought that Qin Haodong had killed Kim Luanhai, so he immediately contacted Lu Guohua of the East City branch and asked him to arrest Qin Haodong for $2 million. Chi Weiner also investigated Lu Guohua's information and found that he had received $3 million in bribes from Wilson Company 7 times. At the same time, he abused his power in suppressing the protests of leukemia patients, so that the injured patients had no place to complain. With this evidence, Qin Haodong directly reported the situation to Shi Kuahai, the head of the Public Security Department. Shi Kuahai immediately arranged Yang Guizhong of the Supervisory Detachment to come to Lin's villa to arrest Kim Luanhai. After listening to him, Naylan Wuxia said, "I didn't know that you were really a little fox. You made such a careful plan in such a short time." After thinking about it, she said, "Then why did you call me here?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, this guy has been a commercial spy for many years. It is said that he is wanted in many countries. He is also a felon. Just take it as a super gift from me. He really wanted to give Kim Luanhai to Nalan Wuxia, but he knew that Lu Guohua would definitely accuse him of deliberately killing Kim Luanhai, so he did not let Nalan Wuxia take him away directly, but stayed in the room for a while. The more Lin Ziyuan looked at Qin Haodong, the more satisfied he was. This son-in-law was really a talent. He had medical skills, brains, and martial arts. With him, his daughter would not suffer. After the explanation, Nalan Wuxia left Lin's villa with Kim Luanhai. Qin Haodong and Lin Ziyuan also went back to their rooms to rest. Early the next morning, the first major event since the establishment of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company took place. The upgraded version of the insurance oral liquid, the blood revival elixir, was officially produced. There were several delicate small boxes on Lin Momo's desk. These boxes were completely carved from camphor wood and looked antique. There were 3 small black pills in each box. They were the blood revival oral liquid that Qin Haodong had modified. The 3 pills together could completely cure leukemia. In order to distinguish it from the blood revival elixir in the cultivation world, it was named the blood revival elixir. Lin Momo picked up a box and looked at it. She asked Lu Yage excitedly, "How is it? Have you tested the effect of the medicine?" Lu Yage said, "I've tested it. I found 3 leukemia patients this morning and let them take the blood revival pill together. The effect is no worse than that of the blood revival oral liquid. After taking the medicine, the 3 people were cured and completely recovered." "Great, it seems that we have really succeeded." Lin Momo said, "Inform all media units immediately that Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company will hold a new product launch conference at 3 p.m. on time." "Okay, I'll inform them now." Lu Yage was also very excited. As the assistant of the president, she had also contributed to the establishment of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. At the same time, as the mother of a child with leukemia, she was also happy for the 4 million leukemia patients in Huaxia. "Wait a minute." Qin Haodong stopped Lu Yage and said, "When releasing the news, add one more thing. If any news media unit wants to interview us, they must bring a leukemia patient to try the medicine on the spot." Lin Momo's eyes lit up and she said, "Yes, why didn't I think of that? Some people will certainly not believe the effect of our experiment, but the patients brought by the media reporters will be different. If they are cured, no one will question the effect of our medicine." Lu Yage said, "That's a good idea. I'll do what Dr. Qin said right away." 10 minutes later, the news that Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company had successfully developed the blood revival elixir was released, causing an explosive sensation on the entire media network. Before 3:00 in the afternoon, the conference room of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company was already full of people. Most of these people were leukemia patients who cared about the blood revival elixir, while the other part was news media reporters from various units and leukemia patients brought by them. At the same time, Qin Haodong contacted Wen Changjiang of Jiangnan Hospital and asked him to arrange professional medical staff to bring blood testing equipment to the conference room. At 3:00 in the afternoon, the press conference began on time. As the president of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, Lin Momo officially announced that the blood revival elixir, which could completely cure leukemia, was officially on the market. After the news was announced, the scene was boiling. A reporter rushed to ask, "President Lin, what's the difference between the blood revival elixir and the blood revival oral liquid? Can this medicine really cure leukemia?" Lin Momo smiled at the reporter and said, "The ingredients of the blood revival elixir and the blood revival oral liquid are exactly the same. Due to technical reasons, the blood revival oral liquid was modified into the blood revival elixir. However, the effect is exactly the same, so you don't have to worry about it. As for the second question, I believe that you have brought leukemia patients here to verify the effect of our blood revival elixir. The reporter pointed to a pale middle-aged man next to him and said, "Yes, I brought my cousin. He has had leukemia for more than 3 years. Then we can verify it on the spot." As soon as Lin Momo waved her hand, a staff member immediately sent a box of exquisitely packaged blood revival elixir to the middle-aged man, followed by a glass of water. The middle-aged man took the blood revival elixir and swallowed it. Then, he drank a few mouthfuls of water. At this time, everyone's eyes and the cameras in the reporter's hands were aimed at the middle-aged man, looking forward to witnessing the result after he took the medicine. Chapter 300. Under everyone's gaze, the middle-aged man's face began to slowly turn ruddy, his breathing became smooth, and he looked more and more energetic. About 10 minutes later, the middle-aged man shouted excitedly, "I'm fine. I can feel it. I'm full of strength now. I'm sure I'm cured." Seeing that it was almost time, Lu Yage immediately led the middle-aged man to the monitoring equipment next to her and asked the medical staff of Jiangnan Hospital to start a blood test on him. When the test results came out, the audience was excited. The blood was normal, which meant that the middle-aged man's leukemia had been completely cured. After everyone returned to their positions, the press conference continued. At this time, another reporter asked, "President Lin, although we have seen the effect of the blood revival elixir on this patient, what is the cure rate? Can it reach 100% cure rate?" Lin Momo said, "At today's press conference, Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company will give away 100 blood revival elixirs for free for everyone to try. We'll see the data later to see the cure rate." Next, the staff of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company randomly selected 100 leukemia patients on the scene and gave them the blood revival elixir for free for field experiments. Under the supervision of many media units, the leukemia patients took the blood revival elixir and soon shouted excitedly, feeling that they had gotten rid of leukemia. In the following blood tests, the test results of 100 patients returned to normal. It turned out that the cure rate of the blood revival elixir had reached 100%. After the results came out, a reporter immediately asked, "President Lin, we have seen the effect of the blood revival elixir produced by your company. How much will it be sold in Wuxia?" Lin Momo said, "Dr. Qin once said that he developed the blood revival elixir to help the 4 million leukemia patients in Wuxia relieve their pain. Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company sells it at the cost price, 680 yuan per box." "Oh my god, it's only 680 yuan. It's much cheaper than Baikong Sting. I've been taking Baikong Sting for 2 years and even sold my house. I didn't expect Dr. Qin's medicine to be so cheap. He's really benevolent. Long live Dr. Qin, long live Tangmen Company." After Lin Momo announced the sales price, some of the leukemia patients present cheered, and some cried bitterly. They were all grateful to Qin Haodong. It was this benevolent doctor who finally gave them hope to live. A bespectacled reporter asked, "President Lin, I heard that the cost of Chinese herbal medicine is very cheap. Isn't it a little too black-hearted for you to sell it at 680 yuan per box?" Before Lin Momo could speak, his words had aroused public anger among the leukemia patients. "Nonsense, do you have a brain? A drug that can cure leukemia in one go, 680 yuan is already a cabbage price. Where did you come from? When Baikong Sting was selling for 28,000 yuan a month, why didn't you ask them why they were selling it at such a high price and that their hearts were too black? I guess he must have been sent by Baikong Sting to make trouble for Dr. Qin." When the reporter saw the emotional patients around him, he suddenly became very nervous, for fear of being attacked by these people. Lin Momo waved her hand, motioning for everyone to be quiet, and then said, "In fact, this account is very easy to calculate. You can check the announcement. Lin's group and Dr. Qin jointly invested 2.5 billion yuan, and Dr. Qin personally invested 500 million yuan. The total investment is 3 billion yuan. There are more than 4 million leukemia patients in China, so you can know the cost of each one. The value of Dr. Qin's prescription is not included in this. After she said this, the audience was silent. Now, even primary school students could calculate the cost of a box of blood revival elixir. The price of 680 yuan was not high. The reporter was even more ashamed and left the venue in disgrace. Lin Momo glanced around and continued, "As a businessman, I don't agree with this price, because businessmen have to make money." However, the price of the blood revival elixir was set by Dr. Qin. He is a doctor with a benevolent heart. He wants to cure his compatriots, so he set the price at 680 yuan. Long live Dr. Qin. Thank you, Dr. Qin. The leukemia patients and the families of the patients present shouted Qin Haodong's name, expressing their sincere gratitude. After the cheers passed, another reporter asked, "Miss Lin, Dr. Qin, I want to ask you. After all, you are now a business, and a business always needs to make money. Don't you want to make money?" "Of course we want to make money." This time, it was Qin Haodong who answered him. "Lin's group has invested so much money, and we have invested so much energy. Of course, we need to make money. However, we are not going to make money from our compatriots. We want to make money from other countries. As I said a few days ago, the blood revival elixir produced by Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company will first guarantee the supply of the Chinese market, and then enter the drug market of other countries. Then, we will make money." The reporter asked again, "Dr. Qin, I want to ask you, how much is the price of the blood revival elixir sold in other countries?" Qin Haodong said, 100,000 yuan. 100,000 yuan per box. After he finished speaking, there was another sensation on the scene. 100,000 yuan was more than 100 times higher than 680 yuan. After the shock, people were full of gratitude and admiration for Qin Haodong. The efficacy and value of the blood revival elixir were obvious. It could have made a lot of money in China. It could have been sold for 100,000 yuan, 200,000 yuan, or even more. However, it was only sold for 680 yuan. This was not something that could be described as a conscientious businessman. He was simply a living bodhisattva who saved the world and saved people. Another reporter asked, "Mr. Qin, you just said that the cost of a box of blood revival elixir is about 680 yuan. You suddenly increased the price by more than 100 times. Aren't you a little too black-hearted?" Qin Haodong glanced at the man and asked, "The cost of Constantine is about 200 yuan per bottle, but the price is 28,000 yuan. The price has increased by about 140 times, and this is the monthly price. Although the price of the blood revival elixir has also increased by more than 100 times, it can completely cure leukemia once and for all. In comparison, this price is a conscientious medicine." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a burst of warm applause on the scene. On the one hand, everyone was a beneficiary of the blood revival elixir. On the other hand, they agreed with Qin Haodong very much. Even if they could completely cure leukemia by spending 100,000 yuan or 200,000 yuan, it was much more conscientious than those black-hearted businessmen abroad. At this time, the reporter said, "But I just said that you are a doctor. You can't just do it for money. Foreign patients are also patients. You don't deserve to be called a benevolent doctor at all, shut up." Qin Haodong's expression was cold as he shouted, "You said that I don't have a benevolent doctor. Have you ever thought that I could completely modify the formula of the blood revival elixir and completely cure leukemia in a month or a year? How much more money would I make then? I could even directly change the cure to effectively control the condition of leukemia like Constantine, so that every patient would have to take it for life. How much more money would I make then?" As soon as he said this, the hearts of everyone present were touched. No one had thought about this before. It was true. If Qin Haodong modified the formula, it would be like a mountain of gold and silver. It would be easy to get money that they could never spend in their lifetime. Being able to relieve the pain of leukemia patients at one time was a benevolent doctor. This was the reincarnation of Bodhisattva. Qin Haodong took a deep breath to ease the anger in his heart. Then, he continued, to tell you the truth, Wilson Company once talked to me and offered me 10 billion yuan to buy the formula of the blood revival elixir in my hands. If I wanted money, I could get 10 billion yuan or even ask for a higher price. However, I know very well that if Wilson Company got the formula of the safe pill, they would never sell it to our compatriots in Wuxia for 680 yuan. They might sell it for 680,000 yuan, or they might hide the formula directly and let you continue to buy their sky-high Constantine. I can ask myself that what I have done is absolutely worthy of the word doctor. If I can't live up to the benevolence of a doctor, then please tell me, what is benevolence of a doctor? The audience burst into thunderous applause. Only then did they know how much Qin Haodong had silently done for them and for leukemia patients all over Wuxia. The reporter was ashamed by Qin Haodong's words, but he still said, I'm not saying that you didn't do well enough, but you shouldn't distinguish between domestic and foreign patients. Qin Haodong said, let me ask you, the blood revival elixir can completely cure leukemia and save a person's life. Isn't it worth 100,000 yuan? I am a Chinese medicine practitioner and a Wuxia person. Is it wrong to sell medicine to my compatriots at a low price? I have done some research before. In recent years, the price of life-saving drugs sold to Wuxia, mainly anti-cancer drugs, has increased at least a dozen times or even hundreds of times. Is it right and proper for them to sell us at a high price? Should I be benevolent? After so many years, have you ever asked those people why the medicine sold to our Wuxia people is dozens or even hundreds of times more expensive than that of others? Well, the reporter had originally wanted to ask some sharp questions to highlight his existence and capture some news on the way. He hadn't expected Qin Haodong's words to be so sharp. He was speechless and flushed. Dr. Qin, we support you. You are the medical sage of the present age, Dr. Qin, benevolent doctors. You are the most worthy of these words. That bastard reporter, get out of here. You are not welcome here. Amidst the excitement of the crowd, the reporter also ran out of the venue in disgrace. Later, Lin Momo announced to the media the 10 places where the blood revival elixir would be sold. At the same time, she proposed a unique sales method. In order to prevent scalpers, all patients who bought the blood revival elixir had to show their leukemia casebooks, and each medical record could only be used once. After the conference, videos, photos, and publicity reports about the conference appeared on the headlines of major media, causing a great sensation not only in Wuxia, but also all over the world. In a villa in M country, Davis and a bearded middle-aged man were tasting red wine in their glasses while watching the reports about the blood revival elixir on the big screen. Davis took a sip of red wine and said, Keynes, your plan failed. Not only did this Wuxia guy see through Kim Luanhai, but he also tricked us. Chapter 301. Not only was Garnett the second largest shareholder of Wilson Company, but he was also the heir of the Garnett family in M country. After the failure of the last assassination plan, Davis had informed Garnett about the blood revival oral liquid and discussed how to deal with Qin Haodong. He touched his beard with a puzzled look on his face. Kim Luanhai's mask cost us millions of dollars. The material is the latest nanomaterial, and we used the latest 3D printing technology to make it, so there are almost no flaws. Even the facial infrared recognition system and the experts who made the mask couldn't find any problems. I really don't know how this Wuxia man found out. Davis said, could it be that Kim Luanhai gave himself away? Garnett shook his head and said, that's unlikely. Kim Luanhai has been in this business for more than 10 years. He is the most famous commercial spy in the circle. Generally speaking, it is impossible for him to give himself away so quickly. Davis said, I told you that this Wuxia guy is not as simple as he looks, so I suggest we use plan number 2 to deal with him. Garnett said, plan number 2 will take too long. We can't afford to wait. The blood revival elixir will cause us astronomical losses every day after it goes on the market. We must destroy Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company as soon as possible, so I suggest we use plan number 1. Davis spread his hands and said, "But old man, your plan number 1 has failed." Garnett said, "No. No. In order not to expose our strength, I didn't use the perfect plan number 1. As long as I use my trump card, I will succeed." Davis said, "But my plan number 2 has entered the preparation stage." Garnett patted him on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry. Believe me, I will succeed this time. If I fail, we will use plan number 2. Davis said, "Well, I will wait for you for 2 more days. However, I really don't think your plan number 1 will work. That Wuxia guy is too cunning." After the press conference of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, the whole pharmaceutical industry was in turmoil. The success of the blood revival elixir had stirred up a huge wave. In particular, the on-site treatment of hundreds of patients at the press conference had played the best publicity effect, so that everyone no longer had any doubts about the effect of the medicine. The next day, the blood revival elixir was officially sold in 10 sales points in Jiangnan City. Because of the limited production capacity, they could only sell it in limited quantities, which resulted in a long queue in front of each sales point. After going to work, Qin Haodong first went to the production workshop and saw that the production line was running normally. Then, he turned and walked to the office building. At this time, the reception hall of the office building of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company was already full of people. These people all spoke with accents from all over Huaxiao, and there were even a few foreigners with different skin colors. They came from different pharmaceutical sales companies all over the world. After the blood revival elixir had been successfully launched on the market yesterday, pharmaceutical sales companies, which were extremely sensitive to business, had immediately come to Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company to seek an agent for the medicine. These people had been in the business world for many years. How could they not see the value of the blood revival elixir? As long as they could get the distribution rights of the medicine, it would definitely be a profitable business. Although they had hired 2 clerks at the reception, they were still very busy. "Pretty lady, could you please convey our company's message to Boss Lin? As long as we can get the dealership, everything else is negotiable," a bespectacled middle-aged pharmaceutical representative said. The clerk said patiently, "I'm sorry, sir. Boss Lin has already said that our medicine is in short supply at present. We don't need an agent at all." It was true. The products of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company were different from those of other companies. They couldn't even meet the demand of the 10 sales points. How could they need someone else to sell them? "Beauty, please tell Boss Lin that I just need to meet him and talk to him for 10 minutes. "No, 5 minutes. The man obviously didn't give up. He thought that as long as he could meet Lin Momo, he might be able to win a chance with his eloquence. So, he quietly put a red envelope in the clerk's hand. The clerk didn't expect this. She blushed and quickly returned the red envelope. "Sir, I can't take this. Boss Lin is very busy. Today's appointments are full." Seeing that there was no hope, the man could only take the red envelope and leave bitterly. As soon as he left, another young man in his 30s came over. This man was completely different from the others. He didn't have the humble attitude of seeking cooperation. Instead, he was arrogant and had his nose in the air. The man glanced at the clerk and said arrogantly, "I'm Zhao Kai, the person in charge of the Huaxia region of Manchuk Company. Contact Boss Lin right now. I want to meet her." The clerk smiled professionally and said, "Mr. Zhao, do you have an appointment?" Zhao Kai's expression suddenly changed as if he had been greatly insulted. He yelled, "Have you received professional training? Did you hear clearly who I am? I'm the person in charge of the Huaxia region of Manchuk Company. Do I need an appointment to see Boss Lin?" The clerk was shocked by his attitude, but she still said, "I'm sorry, sir. According to our company's regulations, you must make an appointment to see Boss Lin. You can't see her without an appointment. What did you say? Zhao Kai slapped the front desk and said angrily, I'm the person in charge of the Wuxia region of Manchuk Company. I'm here to talk about the agent. Can you bear the consequences if the cooperation between the two companies is delayed? Well, the clerk's expression froze. If it was a representative of other companies, she could have continued to refuse because it was the company's regulations. However, Manchuk Company was too famous. It was said that the company controlled 60% of the world's drug chain sales. If she really offended Zhao Kai, she would probably be punished by her superiors. Seeing that the clerk was scared, Zhao Kai continued, I'll call Boss Lin now and ask her if she wants to see me. If not, I'll leave immediately. Okay, Mr. Zhao. Please wait a moment. I'll call the president's office now. The clerk picked up the phone at the front desk and dialed a series of numbers. Soon, she hung up and said, Mr. Zhao, please follow me. Zhao Kai's face was full of pride. In the end, Lin Momo still wanted to see him. He looked around and walked to the elevator with the clerk. Manchuk Pharmaceutical Company was a giant in the global pharmaceutical industry. It was not something a newly established Chinese medicine company could afford to offend. The pharmaceutical representatives of other companies had no objection. After all, Manchuk Company was so famous that they could not afford to compete with it. As soon as Zhao Kai entered, Qin Haodong walked in. As the big boss of the company, no one would stop him. He walked directly into the elevator for him and Lin Momo. The other pharmaceutical representatives were not happy. They all protested to the front desk, who is this man? Why can he go in directly? Doesn't he need to make an appointment? Yes, we don't care if the representative of Manchuk Company goes in. After all, they are a big company and we can't compete with them. But why can this man go in? The clerk glanced at them and said with a smile, this is the big boss of our company. He developed the blood revival elixir. Do you think he needs to make an appointment? The pharmaceutical representatives were shocked at first and then regretted it. They had come to Tangmen Company only to see Lin Momo, but they had forgotten about the big boss, Qin Haodong. They regretted it so much. If they could win Qin Haodong's favor, they could also get the agency rights of the blood revival elixir. It was a pity that they had just missed the opportunity. In fact, they couldn't be blamed for not recognizing Qin Haodong. As long as he appeared in public, he always cast a small illusion on his face, and the effect of the photo was always a little different from him. Because of this slight change, the photo clearly looked like him, but it couldn't be completely consistent with his real person. Zhao Kai was led to Lin Momo's office by the clerk. After entering, he directly sat on the sofa opposite her without saying hello. He raised his chin, looked at Lin Momo, and said, You must be Lin Momo. I'm Zhao Kai, the person in charge of the Wuxia branch of Manchuk Company. I'm here to discuss the agency rights of the blood revival elixir with you. Lin Momo frowned slightly. Manchuk was the world's largest drug sales chain company. Although the blood revival elixir had no plans to be sold in other countries, she had made an exception to meet Zhao Kai, considering that they would eventually enter the international market. She did not expect this guy to be so arrogant. It seemed that he did not take Tangmen Company seriously at all. Mr. Zhao, as soon as Lin Momo opened her mouth, Zhao Kai rudely raised his hand and interrupted her. Zhao Kai said arrogantly, We, Manchuk Company, can act as your agent, but we have to decide the rules. Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company must agree to 3 of our conditions. Otherwise, we can forget about the cooperation. First, immediately stop the sale of the blood revival elixir in Wuxia. I don't know if you have a brain. How could you sell such a valuable drug for 680 yuan per box? You're throwing money away. Second, after we sign the agency contract, we'll split the profits 30 to 70. You get 30% and we get 70%. Third, our company will decide the price of the blood revival elixir. We can sell it for as much as we want. Lin Momo was shocked by this guy's arrogance. Who did he think he was? Was he God? How could he put forward such harsh conditions? It was impossible for him to agree to any one of them, let alone 3. She said, Mr. Zhao, did you drink too much last night? Or did you not wake up this morning? Or did you forget to take your medicine before you went out? What do you mean? Zhao Kai was unhappy and said, do you think my conditions are too harsh? Don't forget that we may be Manchuk Company, which is not comparable to other small companies. Cooperating with our company will definitely bring you great benefits. As the president of the group, you should be more open-minded and see the fact that the blood revival elixir is only a traditional Chinese medicine product. Do you know the situation of traditional Chinese medicine in Europe and the United States? Many developed countries in Europe and the United States think that traditional Chinese medicine is unscientific. No one believes in traditional Chinese medicine, let alone that it can cure diseases. It's impossible for a small company like yours to enter the European and American markets. You can only do this with the huge influence of Manchuk Company. In addition, Manchuk has a huge sales network all over the world. We have a world-class marketing team and the most powerful sales ability in the world. As long as we act as your agent, you won't have to worry about sales. You just need to sit at home and count the money. Chapter 302. Faced with such an arrogant guy, Lin Momo had lost interest in talking with him. She said, Mr. Zhao, I think there's one thing you haven't figured out. Our blood revival elixir is in short supply and we don't need to worry about sales at all. Therefore, there's no need for us to talk anymore. Tangmen Pharmaceutical Company doesn't need your agency. What? President Lin? Do you know what you're talking about? Zhao Kai looked shocked. Manchuk Company was the world's largest sales chain company. No matter where it went, it would be treated like an ancestor by pharmaceutical companies. No company had ever refused to cooperate with them. That was why he was so arrogant. That day, he had received an order from his superiors to discuss cooperation with Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company about the blood revival elixir. He had thought that with Manchuk's advantages, he would have an absolute advantage over such a new traditional Chinese medicine company. He could do whatever he wanted. He had not expected to be rejected. I said that Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company doesn't need to cooperate with Manchuk. Please go back. Although Lin Momo spoke politely, her attitude was extremely firm. Zhao Kai shouted angrily, Lin Momo, you have to think about it. You're the president of the group and you're responsible for the whole company. If you refuse to cooperate with Manchuk, I can guarantee that your products will never be sold to Europe and the United States. Lin Momo said coldly, this is Tangmen Company's business. It has nothing to do with you. Seeing that the negotiation was about to reach a dead end, Zhao Kai finally restrained himself and said, President Lin, don't be so hasty to make a decision. Aren't we negotiating? We still have to talk about cooperation. Don't forget that you're a businessman. The first thing you should think about is how to make the biggest profit. Now the blood revival elixir is sold at 680 yuan per box. I really don't know what you're thinking. What's the difference between this and giving it away for free? As long as you give us the agency, I can guarantee that you'll make at least 100,000 yuan per box. Lin Momo had lost interest in talking. She was waiting for this guy to finish talking and get out of here. Zhao Kai misunderstood her reaction and thought that she was moved by the profit he reported. He said, I'm telling you, you can't listen to that little doctor about the product management. We are businessmen, and businessmen want to make money. Don't talk about the benevolence of doctors. That's totally brainless. Hearing this guy start to slander Qin Haodong, Lin Momo finally couldn't hold back her anger. She said angrily, get out of here. What? Zhao Kai could not believe his ears. He had participated in countless business negotiations on behalf of Manchuk Company, and nobody had ever dared to tell him to piss off. Didn't you hear? I told you to get out, so hurry up and get out. As soon as the door opened, Qin Haodong walked in from the outside. With his keen sixth senses, he had heard most of their conversation along the way. Zhao Kai flew into a rage out of shame after being shouted at twice. He shouted at Qin Haodong, "Who are you? Can't you see I'm talking to your boss? It's not your place to talk." Lin Momo said, "You're wrong. I'm just the president of the company. He's my boss." Bo. Boss? Zhao Kai recognized that the young man in front of him was Qin Haodong, who had gone viral on the internet. "Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Zhao Kai, the person in charge of Manchuk Company's Wuxia region." Before he could finish, Qin Haodong waved his hand and said, "There's no need to introduce yourself. My girlfriend just told you to get out of here. Didn't you hear her?" Zhao Kai was so angry that his eyes were on fire. He was the person in charge of Manchuk Company's Wuxia region, wasn't he? However, when he thought of his mission and the strict order given by his boss, he could only hide his face in his pants. He put on a flattering smile and said, "Mr. Qin, you may have some misunderstandings about our company. In fact, it's very beneficial for us to cooperate. As long as you're willing to let our company handle the blood revival elixir, we can discuss other conditions. For example, we can share the profits. You can get 70% and we'll get 30%. Qin Haodong said, "I heard the 3 conditions you just mentioned. We can't agree to any of them, so you'd better go back now." Zhao Kai's expression froze, but he quickly said, "Mr. Qin, it doesn't matter if you don't agree. It's a business negotiation. The most important thing is to talk. As long as you're willing to let us handle the products, we can discuss other conditions." Qin Haodong looked at him thoughtfully and said, "You don't want the pricing power of the products anymore?" No, it's all up to your company," Zhao Kai said with a flattering face. His attitude was completely different from his arrogance at the beginning. Lin Momo was secretly shocked and thought that this man was really good at acting. "You don't want us to suspend the sales in the Wuxia region? Well, it'd be better if we can suspend the sales. If not, we won't force you. About the profit sharing, what if we don't want to give you a penny?" Zhao Kai was shocked at first, but then he gritted his teeth and said, "It's fine if you don't want to give us any profit. Our company can handle it for free." It was Lin Momo's turn to be shocked. She really couldn't understand why an international chain like Manchuk would force them to such a low price. Was acting as the agent of the blood revival elixir so important to them? Qin Haodong smiled and said, "The offer is good. It couldn't be better." Zhao Kai hurriedly said, "That's right. Our company is very sincere. Mr. Qin, what do you think about cooperation?" He had thought that there had been a major turnaround, but Qin Haodong's expression changed. He said, "There's no need to talk about cooperation. We won't let you handle the products. Get out of here. Mr. Qin, don't be like this. Just tell us what you want. We'll be happy as long as you let us handle the products." Zhao Kai pulled Qin Haodong's sleeve and looked like he was about to cry. "Tell us what you want. If you want to act as the agent of our products, you have to pay a sponsorship fee of 100 million yuan to our company. Is that okay?" Zhao Kai almost choked on his own saliva. Their company had always taken more than half of the profits when they acted as agents for other people's products. Now, not only could they not take any profits, but they also had to pay the sponsorship fee. Lin Momo also thought that Qin Haodong was joking. How could it be possible? They had already made the biggest concession by not making any money. How could they pay you back? It didn't make sense at all. To her surprise, Zhao Kai gritted his teeth and said, "Okay. As long as Mr. Qin is willing to give us the agency of the blood revival elixir, we can sign the contract now. After signing the contract, we'll pay 100 million yuan as sponsorship fee immediately." What the hell? Lin Momo felt that her worldview was about to collapse. How could they negotiate like this? Not only would they act as agents for free, but they would also pay 100 million yuan as sponsorship fee. What's more, it was a world-famous company like Manchurk. She really thought that Zhao Kai was crazy. She said, "Are you sure you took your medicine when you came out this morning?" Zhao Kai was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. If it wasn't for the boss's strict order to get the dealership at all costs, and if he couldn't get it, he would have turned around and left a long time ago. Qin Haodong said to Lin Momo, "You don't understand, do you?" "No." Lin Momo looked at him and said, "Do you?" Qin Haodong said, "I just asked to check the information of Manchurk. 8 of the top 10 major shareholders hold shares in Wilson's company. The top 2 shareholders are exactly the same as Wilson's company. One is Davis, and the other is Garnett." Then, he turned to Zhao Kai and said, "Go back and tell Davis that his little trick won't work on me. Don't even think about getting the blood revival elixir." Well, although Zhao Kai was extremely reluctant, his plan had been seen through by Qin Haodong. It was useless to stay there any longer, so he could only leave the office in disgrace. After he left, Lin Momo asked again, "Haodong, I still don't understand. Although Wilson's company is behind Manchurk, why do they want the agency? They still can't get the formula." Qin Haodong said, "You're still thinking too simply. If Wilson's company has the agency of the blood revival elixir, it will be a good deal for us to attack or retreat. First of all, they will have a large number of blood revival elixirs in their hands. They can continue to experiment in the laboratory until they find the formula. Second, if we are really scared by the name of Manchurk and give them a large amount of profits, they can also make a lot of money from the sales to make up for the loss of Bekonsting's sales. The last point, which I guess is also what they value the most, is that as long as we give the agency to Wilson's company, they can play some tricks in the sales process. For example, they can make the blood revival elixir ineffective or even kill people. By then, the blood revival elixir will be completely ruined, and the big cake of the leukemia market will be Bekonsting's. Oh. That's it. Lin Momo suddenly understood. It was not that she was not good at business, but that she had been in the jewelry business and did not have a deep understanding of the pharmaceutical industry. She was not as thorough as Qin Haodong, who was a doctor. Qin Haodong had always attached great importance to the safety of drugs. The reason why he asked patients to buy the elixir and take the medicine on the spot was that he was afraid that someone would take the blood revival elixir back and play tricks on it. If something went wrong, Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company would be blamed. After all, the interests behind the blood revival elixir were so great that it had taken away the cake of many pharmaceutical companies. It was impossible for these people not to have bad ideas about Tangmen Pharmaceutical. After thinking for a while, Lin Momo said, "If that's the case, what should we do when we enter the European and American markets?" "In fact, you don't have to worry about that at all." Qin Haodong said, "At present, we mainly need to meet the demand of the Chinese market. When the Chinese market is almost ready, people will naturally come to our door and beg to buy our medicine. As the saying goes, good wine fears no dark alley. As long as our blood revival elixir is really effective, we can sell well all over the world without the agency of Manchurk Company, because we are the only company that can cure leukemia completely." Lin Momo nodded and said, "You're right. Even if we sell it in China, there will be patients in Europe and the United States who will come to buy it." While they were talking, Lu Yage hurried in from outside and said to Qin Haodong, "The technician in charge of purchasing medicine is on leave today. Can you go to the medicine market with the purchasing department and buy the medicinal materials we need as soon as possible?" Chapter 303. Okay, I'll go with you. Qin Haodong simply agreed. After all, it was his family's business. Besides, Tangmen Company had just started. It was originally planned to recruit 3 technicians. Now one was in place. Once all the technicians were in place, this kind of thing would not happen again. They left the office together. Lin Momo began to be nervous and busy. There were indeed a lot of things that needed her to deal with in such a large company. Zhao Kai left the reception hall with his tail between his legs. Not long after he left, a young man in a well-ironed suit with an imposing appearance walked in. "Sir, who are you looking for?" The clerk at the front desk asked politely. "I want to see Lin Momo." The young man's face was very old-fashioned. "Sir, do you have an appointment?" The young man said, "No, but you can tell her my name is Tang Long. She will definitely see me." "Well, please wait a moment." Seeing that the young man was different from other pharmaceutical representatives, the clerk hesitated for a moment and finally dialed the office number. Soon, the clerk hung up the phone with a strange look and said to Tang Long, "Sir, please come with me." The reason why she looked strange was that she had never seen Lin Momo get angry on the phone. Moreover, Lin Momo still wanted to take the young man to her. She really didn't know how the young man had offended the president. In the president's office, Lin Momo's face was livid. A fake came to pretend to be Tang Long the day before yesterday. She didn't expect that another one would come just 2 days later. The people of Wilson Company were really endless. As soon as she received the phone call from the front desk, she immediately called Saber and Sharp Sword over. She secretly made up her mind to expose the fake in person. Tang Long was taken into the office. He immediately saw Saber and Sharp Sword looking at him fiercely. Lin Momo opposite him was even more murderous. "Momo," before he could finish his words, Lin Momo waved her hand. Saber and the others immediately stepped forward and pressed him to the ground. They quickly took off all his clothes. "Lin Momo, what are you doing? Are you crazy?" Tang Long roared and tried to resist. Maybe his small physique was no match for Saber and Sharp Sword. His upper clothes were taken off in a few seconds. "Look carefully. He must be wearing a mask." Lin Momo had seen Qin Haodong expose Jin Donghai's identity last time, so she was sure that Tang Long was also wearing a mask. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental that people who had disappeared for 5 years appeared one after another at this time? However, Saber and the others used all their strength, almost scraping off a layer of skin on Tang Long's face and pulling out dozens of hairs. In the end, they still couldn't find him. "Leather mask." Saber finally said to Lin Momo, "Miss Lin, this guy's face doesn't seem to be fake. How is that possible?" "It must be because you didn't check carefully enough. You should start from the bottom and check bit by bit." After receiving Lin Momo's order, Saber and the others started from Tang Long's navel and carefully checked again, but they still did not find any trace of a mask. "Miss Lin, still nothing," Saber said. Lin Momo took a look and her face swelled. The red Tang Long said, "You really are Tang Long." "Nonsense, who else could it be if not me?" "Lin Momo, what the hell do you want?" Tang Long was so angry that he didn't expect that he would be stripped naked by several big men as soon as he entered the door and almost have a layer of skin rubbed off. This, Lin Momo didn't know how to explain. She waved her hand and asked Saber and the others to let go of Tang Long. Tang Long got up from the ground and put on his clothes again. Lin Momo still asked with some uncertainty, "Are you sure it's Tang Long?" Tang Long roared angrily, "It's me, it's me, it's me. Don't you even know me?" "Well, it's you. What do you want from me?" After a round of examination and finding no problem, Lin Momo believed most of Tang Long's identity. "Are you sure you want me to say it in front of them?" Tang Long glanced at Saber and Sword next to him and said. It was related to her privacy, so Lin Momo also felt a little inappropriate. She waved her hand to Saber and said, "You go out first." Saber and the others went out. With Yao Qianqian secretly protecting them, they were not worried about Lin Momo's safety. "What do you want from me?" When she asked this, Lin Momo felt conflicted and afraid. If this man was really Tang Long, then he was Tang Tang's biological father. She was afraid that he came to ask her for a child. Tang Long said, "I don't want to mention what happened 5 years ago. After all, we are adults. I went to the bar to find a woman, but I happened to meet you. I just wanted to have fun and didn't look for you again. But a few days ago, I heard that you haven't married, but you have a daughter. I want to ask if the child is mine." Tang Long went straight to the point and asked about the child, which made Lin Momo a little overwhelmed for a moment. After a moment of silence, she cried, "Tang Tang is my daughter. It has nothing to do with you." "Nonsense. How can you have a child by yourself?" Tang Long cried, "I just want to ask who the father is." It's Qin Haodong." Lin Momo was very satisfied with her current state of life. She loved Qin Haodong very much and felt very happy. She didn't want her beautiful life to be destroyed by the person in front of her, so she finally weaved a lie. "Qin Haodong," Tang Long said with a disdainful smile, "don't think I'm a fool. I've done an investigation before I came here. 5 years ago, Qin Haodong was still in high school. You have known him for less than 2 months. How could he be Tang Tang's father?" Well, after all, a lie was a lie, especially since Lin Momo had never lied before. She looked flustered and speechless for a moment. Tang Long looked at her and said, "Since you can't name anyone else, the child is mine." "No. It's not yours. Tang Tang is my daughter. No one can take her away," Lin Momo said in a panic. As the president of 2 companies, she could keep calm in the past no matter how big things were. But when it came to the ownership of her daughter, she couldn't calm down no matter what. Tang Long said, "Well, let's go pick up Tang Tang now and do a DNA test together. If she's my daughter, no one can deprive me of my right to be a father. If she's not my daughter, I don't want her." Facing the aggressive Tang Long, Lin Momo hesitated for a moment and said, Well, can we go later?" She wanted to wait for Qin Haodong to come back. With that man by her side, she was not afraid of anything. But Tang Long cried, "No, I've waited for 5 years. I can't wait another minute. I have to go now, right now." Lin Momo thought about it and finally did not refuse Tang Long. She left Tang Men Group with Saber and drove straight to Gold Branch and Jade Leaf Kindergarten. When the little fellow saw Lin Momo, she cried excitedly, "Mama, why did you pick me up so early? Do you want to take me out to play?" Lin Momo couldn't get excited. She held the little fellow tightly in her arms and said, "I'm going to take you to the hospital for a physical examination." "But isn't Papa a doctor? Why don't you let him examine me?" Lin Momo said, "I'll take you to have a blood test." "Papa can't do it." "All right then." The little fellow got in the car with Lin Momo. When she saw Tang Long sitting in the car, she immediately cried, "Mama, isn't that the bad guy Papa beat? Why is he here again?" Lin Momo didn't know how to explain, so she could only say, "Tang Tang, that one is fake. This one is real." Tang Long asked with a look of surprise, "What's real or fake?" Lin Momo said coldly, "You don't need to know that." Tang Long didn't dwell on this issue. He turned to look at the little fellow and asked, "Is this my daughter?" The little fellow cried discontentedly, "Bad guy, you're not my papa. My papa is Qin Haodong." Tang Long looked at Lin Momo and said, "How can you do this? How dare you lie to her? You should tell her that I'm her real father." Lin Momo glared at him and said coldly, "Shut up before you get the result." Seeing that Lin Momo was really angry, Tang Long opened his mouth awkwardly, but he didn't say anything in the end. The atmosphere in the car suddenly became silent. Lin Momo and her daughter didn't speak, and Tang Long didn't say anything either. The car went straight to Jiangnan Hospital. Lin Momo held her daughter in her arms and glanced at Tang Long opposite her. She had to admit that the two of them were somewhat similar in appearance. If Tang Long hadn't had plastic surgery and wasn't a fake, he was probably the little fellow's biological father. But for some reason, she had another feeling in her heart. Qin Haodong was more like Tang's biological father, while the little fellow had nothing to do with Tang Long. This feeling had no basis at all, but it was very real. In silence, the motorcade arrived at Jiangnan Hospital. Lin Momo took the little fellow and Tang Long to the genetic diagnosis room of the laboratory. After collecting the samples, Lin Momo suddenly became nervous. If Tang Long was really Tang's biological father, what should she do? How could she explain to Tang? If Tang Long insisted on taking Tang away, how could she face him? Obviously, the little fellow didn't think so much. She ran up and down the corridor of the hospital alone, having a great time. Tang Long tried to get close to the little fellow several times, but the little fellow refused. In her opinion, this man was a big bad guy. Half an hour later, a nurse came out with the test report and asked, "Is Tang's family here?" Lin Momo nervously greeted her and said, "I'm here. I'm Tang's mother." The nurse glanced at her and said, "The test result is out. The paternity test result of Tang Long and Tang is 99% similar." This, Lin Momo's face suddenly turned pale and stiff. She still knew this basic medical knowledge. The 99% DNA test result of the two people showed that Tang Long was really Tang's biological father. God, what should I do? She felt that her head was going to explode. Tang Long excitedly held the little fellow in his arms and said, "My daughter, call me daddy. Get out of here. Let me go." The little fellow was much stronger than ordinary children. She pushed Tang Long away and threw herself into Lin Momo's arms, shouting, "Mommy, get rid of this big bad guy. I hate him." Tang Long came to Lin Momo and said, "Don't you want to tell your daughter the truth at this time? This is my daughter. It's none of your business." Lin Momo held the little fellow and said, Tang was brought up by me. You've never done your duty as a father." Tang Long cried, "That's because I didn't know she existed. From today on, I'll do my duty as a father. I'll take her to M country." Chapter 304. Lin Momo yelled, "No, Tang is my daughter. No one can take her away from me." "Why not? Tang is also my daughter. She has been with you for so long. Now it's my turn to take care of her." Tang Long did not give in either. The two people's constant quarrel attracted people's attention. Soon, a circle of onlookers formed around them, pointing at them. Some people even recognized Lin Momo. Lin Momo took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in her heart, and said, "Let's not quarrel here. Come home with me." After saying that, she returned to the car with the little fellow in her arms. Tang seemed to have heard something. She hugged Lin Momo's neck and said, "Mama, I want to be with Papa and Mama. I don't want to go with that bad guy." Lin Momo said firmly, "Don't worry, baby. No one can take you away as long as Mama is here." In a mountainous area on the outskirts of the capital of M country, it looked no different from other places. The mountains were beautiful, the rivers were green, and all kinds of beasts were wandering in the mountains. Birds were jumping happily in the trees. However, there was another world under the ground. A highly modern laboratory was operating in an orderly manner 30 meters under the soil. Davis and Garnett sat together on a comfortable leather sofa. Opposite them was a wide electronic screen, which was playing the scene of Tang Long and Lin Momo together. Next to them, two technicians were skillfully operating the computer. The instructions they issued were exactly the same as what Tang Long had said. Even Tang Long's expression was controlled by them. After seeing the DNA test results, Garnett proudly said to Davis, "How about it, old man? My plan is going well. Now this woman is convinced of the identity of test body number 1. Davis said, "The organization put you in charge of this laboratory. Now you've released test body number 1. Aren't you afraid that the big boss will blame you?" Garnett's expression froze for a moment before he said, "That's not a big deal. Experiment number 1 has already completed all the tests. This mission just happens to be a test for him. This is also a contribution to the organization. I guess the big boss won't say anything. Besides, I'm helping you. The big boss put me in charge of this laboratory and you in charge of running Wilson Company to make money. Now your profitable business has been seriously threatened. If you don't get this formula, I believe it won't be long before the big boss's anger falls on you." "Old buddy, don't put the blame on me," said Davis. "Even without you, my second plan can solve the current problem. You should think more about yourself. If the secret of experimental body number 1 is leaked, the big boss will definitely punish you." From the conversation between the two of them, it could be seen that their relationship wasn't too harmonious. On the contrary, they seemed to be competing and suppressing each other. "You don't have to worry about that. I've already made a foolproof plan. No matter what, the secret of test subject number 1 will not be leaked." Garnett said excitedly, "If test subject number 1 can successfully get the formula, it will prove that there is no problem with our research and development. Then we can carry out more important tasks." Davis said, "Old buddy, don't be too happy too early. The most difficult thing to deal with in Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company is not this woman, but that Wuxia guy. Nothing matters before he appears." Garnett said indifferently, "Even if that Tang guy comes, so what? The DNA of experimental body number 1 is completely copied from that little girl's DNA. There will be no problem with the paternity test. I have a hunch that you will never succeed. Qin Haodong is definitely more powerful than you and I think. Davis, you're too timid. I'll definitely succeed this time." Davis said, "Old buddy, you are too confident. How about we bet $10 million? Garnett said confidently, "No problem. Just wait to transfer $10 million to my bank account." In Jiangnan City, Lin Momo returned to the Lin's villa with Tang Long. After entering the door, she said, "No matter what, Tang is my bottom line. I can let you see her, but you can't take her away." The little fellow also said, "Mommy, I hate him. I don't want to see that big bad guy." Tang Long said with a chagrined expression, "See? Now my daughter is so distant from me, her father. I have to let her stay with me for a while." Lin Momo said, "That's impossible. No one can take Tang away from me. You are unreasonable. If that's the case, then I will go to court to sue. Whatever. Even if the court decides, Tang will be given to me." Tang Long sneered and said, "That is not necessarily true. You are now in a relationship with that gigolo boy, and I am single. The court is likely to start from this point and give Tang to me, unless you can break up with that gigolo boy. Are you willing to do that?" Lin Momo's expression changed. Of course, she was reluctant to give Tang up, but it was impossible for her to leave Qin Haodong. "I know you must be reluctant." Tang Long sneered again, "And you are the president of Lin's group and Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. If you really take the lawsuit to court, I am afraid that it will have a great impact on the two companies you manage." Lin Momo immediately realized that this man was definitely prepared and had everything under control. She said, "Tell me, what do you want?" Tang Long said with a playful expression, "Since you are so reluctant to give up your daughter, and we are both single, why don't we get married? Then we don't have to fight for her, and we can give her a complete family. No, that is impossible. Lin Momo refused without hesitation. If she had met Qin Haodong before, she might have considered this suggestion, but now it was impossible. Tang Long smiled and said, I know you are reluctant to give up that gigolo boy. Lin Momo said, change the condition. As long as you don't fight with me for Tang Tang, I can give you any amount of money. You are really generous. Tang Long smiled disdainfully and said, I am not short of money. How about you give me 20% of the shares of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, and I will not fight with you for the custody of Tang Tang. Lin Momo's expression changed as she said, that is impossible. I don't have any shares of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. What can I give you? What? You don't even have 20% of the shares. Tang Long said with some surprise, it seems that this gigolo boy is not good to you. He only wants you to work for him, but he doesn't give you any benefits. Since you don't have any shares, you can give me the formula of the blood revival elixir. Are you showing your fox's tail so soon? While they were talking, the door opened and Qin Haodong came in from outside. He had received a message from Saber saying that another guy named Tang Long had come, so he hurried back. Papa, come on. There is another bad guy coming. He wants to take me away. The little fellow shouted as she flew into Qin Haodong's arms. Qin Haodong held her in his arms and said, don't worry. As long as Papa is here, no one can take me away. Who are you? How can you say that? You are just Tang Tang's godfather. What right do you have to interfere with my custody of Tang Tang? Tang Long spoke with confidence, but as soon as his voice fell, he flew out like a kite with a broken line and hit the opposite wall with a bang. Great! Beat him. Papa, beat him. Beat this big bad guy. The little fellow shouted excitedly. Lin Momo pulled Qin Haodong aside and whispered, Haodong, don't be impulsive. This man is really Tang Long, Qin Haodong said, that's impossible. I also hope it's not true. Lin Momo shook her head and said, look, this is the paternity test done by him and Tang Tang. The similarity rate has reached 99%. He is indeed Tang Tang's biological father. Qin Haodong was a little surprised. He was Tang Tang's biological father. There was no doubt about that. How could there be another person who was 99% similar? He took the DNA test result from Lin Momo's hand and looked at it briefly. It was true, which made him a little confused. He was Tang Tang's biological father. How could there be another one? He asked, did he bring this test? Will there be a problem? Lin Momo shook her head and said, I did it with him in Jiangnan Hospital. I was there the whole time. There can be no problem. At this time, Tang Long got up from the ground and shouted angrily at Qin Haodong, why did you beat me? I'm a citizen of M country. You will have to bear serious consequences if you beat me. Qin Haodong turned his head and looked at Tang Long. The powerful power of the spirit quickly covered him. He wanted to see where the guy's flaws were. At first glance, he couldn't help but be shocked. Although Tang Long was alive and kicking, this guy had no 3 souls and 7 spirits. His entire mud pill palace was empty. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It was really interesting. Then, he directly used the mind-manipulating skill. Tell me, who are you? What are you doing here? I told you that I'm Tang Long, Tang Tang's biological father. I'm here to get my daughter back. Under the mind-manipulating skill, Tang Long was not affected at all. Qin Haodong was sure that he was right. This guy really had no soul. The problem was self-evident when a person had no 3 souls and 7 spirits. Then, he stretched out a finger and poked the Shanzhong acupoint on Tang Long's chest. Tang Long was so scared that he took 2 steps back and cried nervously, "What are you doing? I've already warned you. If you do anything to me again, I'll call the police immediately." Qin Haodong had already gotten the answer he wanted. Not only did this guy not have 3 souls and 7 spirits, but he also didn't have any acupoints. Coupled with the DNA test result just now, he had already guessed Tang Long's identity, a cyborg. He was definitely a synthetic cyborg. It was easy to guess who had sent this cyborg. It must be Wilson Company, which was after the formula of the blood revival elixir. Qin Haodong hadn't expected that the company's technological strength was so powerful that they could even create cyborgs. After getting the result he wanted, Qin Haodong waved his hand at the door. Saber and the others immediately walked in. "Boss, what can I do for you?" Qin Haodong pointed to Tang Long and said, "Tie him up and put him in a sack." "Yes, boss." Saber and Sword answered and immediately put Tang Long on the ground. Then, they tied him up with a rope. Spear turned around and found a sack. The fake Tang Long didn't know that his identity had been exposed. He struggled and shouted, "Let me go. Let me go. What do you want? I'm a citizen of M country. I want to protest. I want to call the police." Chapter 305. Qin Haodong was annoyed by the guys yelling and said, "Stuff his mouth." "Yes, boss." Sharp Sword immediately tore off Tang Long's socks and stuffed them into his mouth. Then, together with Spear, he put him into the sack and casually closed the sack's mouth. "Haodong, is this appropriate?" Lin Momo asked nervously. "Don't worry. I'll give you a result later." Qin Haodong patted Lin Momo on the shoulder and handed the little fellow to Lin Ziyuan, who had rushed back after hearing the news. Then, he took Lin Momo and Saber to the yard. He asked Saber to put the sack in the trunk of the car, and then they left the Lin's villa together. In the underground experimental base of M country, Garnett looked at the black electronic screen and exclaimed in surprise, "What is this Wuxia boy doing? Why did he treat test subject number 1 like this?" Davis lit a cigar, took a leisurely puff, and said, "Old man, I feel that this Wuxia boy has seen through the identity of test subject number 1. Garnett waved his fist and shouted, "Impossible, this is impossible. Test subject number 1 is almost perfect. How could he see through it? It's an intuition. It's up to you whether you believe it or not." Davis said, "But I'm going to win this bet. Just wait for the $10 million to be transferred into my account." "No, this is impossible. That Wuxia boy must be jealous. He's taking revenge on my test subject number 1. But I believe that Wuxia is a legal country. He wouldn't dare to do anything." Garnett still couldn't believe everything in front of him. In his opinion, test subject number 1 was perfect and flawless. Even the DNA identification was not a problem. Qin Haodong had no reason to doubt it. Qin Haodong took Lin Momo to Daddy Security Company. Saber carried the sack and they went to Chi Wan's room. Chi Wan had just finished dinner and was about to change clothes to take a bath. When she saw Qin Haodong, she said, "Haodong, Sister Momo, you're here." Then, she saw the squirming sack in Saber's hand and asked, "Haodong, what is this? Come with me first." Qin Haodong took Chi Wan to the next room and asked, "How much do you know about high-end DNA technology?" "I know a little, but it's all at the theoretical level. I haven't really experimented." Chi Wan asked in surprise, "Aren't you a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner? Why are you asking about this?" Qin Haodong did not answer her question, but asked again, "Then tell me, with the current level of technology, can we use DNA technology to create a human?" Chi Weiner said, "In terms of technology, there is no problem, but now there are relevant regulations in each country, which do not allow this kind of behavior to happen. If we use DNA technology to imitate a person, is there a way to control his words and actions? Qi Wan thought for a moment and said, using DNA technology to quickly replicate a person should have no thinking and consciousness. But if we implant a chip in the brain, we should be able to control his words and deeds through computer technology. After listening to Qi Wan's words, Qin Haodong was more certain that Tang Long was such an existence. He said, if there is such a bio-human in front of you now, is there a way to cut off his control? Qi Wan said, it's not too difficult. You just need to cut off the signal connection between the chip and his computer. With the current equipment of our security company, we can do it. Great. Qin Haodong said, there is a bio-human in that sack. Help me cut off his signal connection now. After they finished talking, Qi Wan immediately arranged for someone to move the signal jammer outside the room. Then, she connected the laptop and began to prepare the program. 3 minutes later, she said, it's ready. Now we can cut off the signal at any time. Wait a minute. You can do it when I ask you to. Qin Haodong returned to the room and asked Saber to open the sack and let Tang Long out. There were only Qin Haodong, Qi Wan, Lin Momo and Tang Long in the room. Seeing what Qin Haodong was doing, Lin Momo was even more confused. She asked, Haodong, what are you doing? Anyway, he is Tang's father. You can't be impulsive. You'll know what's going on soon. Qin Haodong turned to Qi Wan and said, let's start now. The reason why he did this was to let Lin Momo see with her own eyes that the person in front of her was a bio-human, not the real Tang Long. After receiving Qin Haodong's order, Qi Wan immediately pressed the enter key. In the underground experimental base of M Country, Garnett shouted excitedly when he saw the big screen that had restored the image, I told you that test body number 1 is perfect. Qin Haodong can't find anything, however, as soon as he finished speaking, the image on the big screen flashed. This time, it completely turned into a snowflake, which was a sign that the signal was interrupted. The 2 technicians on the other side shouted, this is bad, boss. We've completely lost contact with test subject number 1. My God, how could this be? This is impossible. This is impossible. Isn't Qin Haodong a Chinese medicine practitioner? How could he see through test body number 1? How could he have the technology to interrupt the signal? However, the truth was the truth. No matter how he roared, there was still a snowflake on the big screen, and there was no sign of the signal being restored. What's going on? Is there a problem here? Garnett shouted at the 2 technicians. One of the technicians quickly said, Boss, there is no problem here. The connection signal between the computer and test body number 1 was strongly interfered with, so the connection was broken. Wuxia boy, you will regret what you have done. Garnett roared crazily. Davis, with a cigar in his mouth, said with some schadenfreude, Old man, you'd better think about how to keep the secret of test body number 1. If Qin Haodong gives it to the Wuxia authorities and the organization's secret is leaked, you will be in big trouble. I guess the big boss will make you a test body. Garnett quickly regained his composure and said with a cold expression, that's impossible. Our technicians have already set up a special explosive device in test body number 1. As long as the signal is lost for more than a minute, test body number 1 will automatically explode. That Wuxia boy will definitely be blown to pieces. As long as he dies, the development of the blood revival elixir will end. Anyway, I have helped the organization solve a big problem. I believe the big boss will reward me. At Daddy Security Company, after Qi Wan cut off the signal, Tang Long, who had been squirming and protesting, immediately became like a puppet. The light in his eyes disappeared, and he had no reaction at all. Lin Momo was shocked and shouted in surprise, what's going on? Haodong, did you kill him? She knew that Qin Haodong had many magical means and thought that this was only one of them. Qin Haodong shook his head and said, I didn't kill him. He is an artificially created cyborg. Cyborg? How is that possible? Lin Momo still couldn't believe it. Qin Haodong further explained, Wilson Company found out what happened between you and Tang Long through their means, so they sent a fake Tang Long. After the last failure, they sent an upgraded version of Tang Long. The purpose is still to cheat us of the formula. Lin Momo said with a shocked face, but his DNA is 99% similar to Tang Tang's, it's not surprising. Wilson Company is far more powerful than we thought. It is not difficult to get a strand of Tang Tang's hair. They must have gotten a sample of Tang Tang's DNA first, and then made a cyborg according to her DNA. In this case, the paternity test must be similar. This. Lin Momo's face was a little pale and she fell into silence. She knew that what Qin Haodong said was true, but all this had a great impact on her. Qi Wan also put down the computer, walked over and said, Sister Momo, don't worry too much. Although their means are very cunning, Haodong saw through them. After a moment of silence, Lin Momo said, but I'm still a little worried. What should I do if Tang Tang's father really comes to me one day? Qin Haodong knew that it was absolutely impossible. As long as someone said he was Tang Long, it was definitely a fake. When he was about to further comfort Lin Momo, he suddenly felt a numbness in his scalp, and an unprecedented sense of crisis rose from the bottom of his heart. No, there's a bomb. After coming to his senses, Qin Haodong held Lin Momo and Qi Wan in his arms and suddenly threw himself into the corner of the room. Then, he ran the genuine qi of everlasting green wood to form a genuine qi shield to protect the three of them. As soon as he did all this, Tang Long's eyes flashed red behind him, and then there was a bang. A huge wave of air swept around wildly, and all kinds of furniture in the room were instantly turned into pieces. Then, a large area of the wall collapsed, burying everything in the room. In the laboratory of M Country, a technician shouted, Boss, test body number 1 has successfully started the self-explosion program. Great! Garnett shouted excitedly, although I wasted my most precious test body this time, I killed that Wuxia boy after all. The plan is a success. Davis said, Garnett, it's not as simple as you think. I've dealt with that Wuxia boy several times. He's very powerful. I'm afraid he won't die so easily. Garnett said disdainfully, Old man, are you scared by Qin Haodong, or are you jealous of what I've achieved? Do you know how many explosives I put in test body number 1? It's enough to blow up a tank. In this case, Qin Haodong is not made of steel. How could he not die? He was right. The amount of explosives placed in test body number 1 was indeed enough, and the power of the explosion was enough. When Qin Haodong was attacked by the first wave of air, he suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a large mouthful of blood. Before he could recover, a large number of bricks and stones fell like raindrops, instantly swallowing the bodies of the three people. Qin Haodong madly used his genuine qi and spat out a large mouthful of blood again. Fortunately, he managed to protect Lin Momo and Qi Wan. The two women did not understand why Qin Haodong suddenly threw them down until the sound of the explosion was heard. Two streams of hot liquid sprayed on their faces one after another, and a bloody smell hit their nostrils. Only then did they understand what had happened. Qi Wan herself was a strong person at the level of internal strength. Under Qin Haodong's protection, she was not hurt at all. She was the first to react. She hurriedly shouted, Haodong, how are you? I'm fine. The two injuries made Qin Haodong feel weak. He said, Davis, that bastard. He put explosives in the biochemical man. When I get out, I'll break his bones. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.